All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. Tonight's show is partnered with the Amazon affiliate program. Buying the item of the week will offer a percentage-based commission to us with no extra charge to you. Stick around for more details, but simply put, click the link, buy the thing, support the show. It's just that easy. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Zhang, and the Contender Series, Dana White's Contender Series Week 2. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host, the Ohio player, Chase Parton. How you doing, brother?
Dude, we are living. This is another great day. We had fights on Saturday and we had fights on Tuesday if we throw it back even almost a week. And they were all really, really good, really, really fun. So I can't wait to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, same here. This was a good card. A little, another mixed bag, I would say, as far as the Shanghai card went. Definitely some goofy stuff on here, as almost expected, but it's always new and interesting goofiness that is why the sport is so entertaining, of course. And the Contender Series was really good, so we'll get into that in just a moment. Of course, if you are new to the show, we're going to be going over each and every fight from these two cards. If you got something that you want to talk about that is not related to the fight that we're talking about at the moment, throw it in the chat. We will come back to it. Remind us if we don't. But yeah, so that all being said, first off the bat, let's I gotta do one quick thing here. Give me just
Yeah,
1 second. You
absolutely.
talk, Chase.
Yeah, while Thinker's having a great time there, I just actually wanted to just emphasize that this was always going to be a banger of a night of fights because it was an early morning of fights for that we had
Facts.
on Saturday. But that is not the important thing right now. We're going to talk about Contender Series first. I even almost forgot and I almost jumped the gun. But
Indeed.
Contender Series last Tuesday, week 2, it was very interesting. I actually want to start out by saying I'm not a fraud, but I did miss the first fight. I was stuck at work, and for some reason, I had to rush home, and Chipotle wasn't being quick enough. So I missed this first fight. Even though I could have watched it on my phone, I wanted to wait until I had the full experience to actually go ahead and rewatch this one. And then I didn't. That's the craziest part. I didn't even go back and rewatch this first fight. I apologize. So, Thinker, please take it away on this.
Indeed, yes. Well, fraud check confirmed on Chase Parton. That's
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
quite obvious. But yeah, no, this first fight was a good. This was a great week of Contender Series fights overall. I mean, like this card, I think had one decision total. So
Hmm.
this was another one of these, just a very good fight to start it off. This should have been week 1. Like this would have been a banger way to start the Contender Series season off. Unfortunately, week 1 was a bit of a dud. But this one was the way that it really was like week 1, you can kind of just put out of your mind. This is like the official start of the Contender Series as far as I'm concerned. And this fight here, this is Tommy Quasi versus Ramiro Jimenez, excuse me. And yet Jimenez, beastly. I was very impressed with this guy. His striking was fantastic. His movement was really good. He's Mexican boxer style, I would say, real quick on his feet, fast hands kind of situation, but doing all of those things really nicely. And Quasi just couldn't keep up. That's basically what it came down to.
Well, I was really hoping to have time to be able to watch a little bit of this fight. I didn't expect him to throw a guy who's going to obviously finish in the first round against somebody who's a plumber or something like that. Tommy, I don't know what happened here, but I did see the clip and I thought it looked a little early from just the perspective of the finish. But everybody was saying he was getting really beat up bad. So,
Yeah, if it wasn't then, it would have been whenever. I mean, obviously that does not excuse an early stoppage if that's what it was, but this was one of those situations where it was a little bit of a skill mismatch, a little bit of an
mhm.
imbalance, I would say. Quasi was trying. I mean, he was out there like trying to make things happen, but it was like one of those deals that anytime that he would have a little bit of traction, it would just immediately go the other way. And it was very quick too. I mean, 2 minutes 53 seconds into the first round, this thing was over. So it really Quasi didn't like it was one of those types of deals. And this is why the Contender Series is so great in general, is that if you are a quick starter, then you have an instant leg up, because a lot of times these guys, bright lights, they're newer to the game, whatever the circumstances might be, like you establish dominance early, you can essentially finish, you can write your own ticket.
Yeah.
this was definitely that Quasi just couldn't get himself into, second gear quick enough or whatever.
Definitely good that everybody seemed to enjoy this fight from Ramiro. Like I said, it was quick. I didn't get to watch this one, and I actually hate myself now that we're watching the stream, and I completely forgot about the first fight of this that I missed. But either way, very good that we got a contract out of him. We'll talk about it a little later if there was anything special said. But from what I heard, I mean, like this was a beatdown, and he was going to get a contract either way. I mean, walked in, walked out, and did it with solid. And of course, I've said it before. Uh, Mexicans, the PI, Dana, I don't know what it is with it, but he loves it. And this guy seems like prime candidate to end up in the PI.
You gotta keep filling the pipeline of these PIs that keep popping up all over the world. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You got a PI there, you got a PI in China,
Yep.
whatever. Like, just keep pumping up the numbers and keeping them inside of the UFC system is, definitely a part of that. They
Mhm.
they they want to have their. We talked about homegrown talent that, like, for other organizations wanting to have that. Well, UFC is the place to be as far as the highest level of the sport goes, and they also want their own homegrown talent within that system. So makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, moving on to the next one. All right, so we got to talk about this character here. This is Josh Hokett versus Guilherme Uriel is the other guy, Guilherme Uriel. But the story of the fight obviously is this Josh Hokett character. So fight itself, not bad, right? I mean, like this is a heavyweight. These two guys, and Hokett is a wrestler at heavyweight, which we need more of those. So it's understandable why they would bring this guy in and why they would want him in the mix. And he did finish the fight. So, I mean, good deal there. He ended up doing it by TKO, but, he's wrestle heavy to begin with in his style. So it kind of works for what the organization wants out of this type of a matchup, out of a new heavyweight prospect or whatever. And he did his job. He went in there and finished. But really the story is what came after. But talk about the fight there, Chase.
So I did get to watch this one. I will admit that I was not in the best mood because I just missed the first fight. This damn people, everybody wants to order 4 different bowls at Chipotle. They were taking all the time in the world. So by the time I get home to sit down, I'm so mad that I get to look at this Josh Holkick guy, shoot all these takedowns in the first round and do a bunch of wrestling that at the time I was like, this is just not what I think we're gonna see dominate the heavyweight division. Like this is just not gonna be the guy. And then the second round started, and he did one move that I said, okay, that was it right there. That was maybe the moment where I could see the light. Even if I'm being a hater, when he jabbed, he faked the jab and then went for the takedown. It was like real early in round 2, really really nice because he got him down and then his opponent just gave up. I mean, he just laid there and just let it happen. But a good finish in round 2. Probably should have happened in round 1, but like he did work for it. And the dude gassed out, and shout out to him for getting it. But in that first round, it was just not speaking to me as, yeah, he's going to be able to evade Derek Lewis for a whole round and do this. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he really reminded me of just an American Hamdi, is what it looked.
Nice.
I mean that's kind of what it seemed like to me. But this is the Contender Series. He did his job on the Contender Series. You go out there, you finish the fight. That is
Yeah.
what you are supposed to do. Well, I mean, so the fight itself was, yeah, you're right. I mean, it wasn't like a barn burner, whatever. It was a decent enough performance, but really, I mean, we got to talk a little bit about this guy as a character as well. I mean, because that was the bigger story to me, is all the shit he was saying on the mic afterwards.
It was super cringe. Like, at least Chael was not cringe. He was funny. You at least laughed at him. But this dude, it was genuinely just like a weird moment because he started listing off a lot of different groups of people, but it was in context to him being in the same division as them. So it's like, are you saying you're one of these horrible people that you're comparing them to, and you're the champion of them? I'm the champion of the rapists.
Well, he's gonna
Like
he's gonna clean it out, is what he was like. He's gonna be like the Batman of heavyweight, is what he was trying to portray himself
I
as. And
yeah, that just
it,
didn't come off as that. That was a really terrible. If he thought about that late at night, got to get another one. Go back to the drawing board,
oh
buddy.
yeah, well, no, you could definitely tell that he was practicing in the mirror for his moment there for sure. Yeah, no. So you brought up Chael, and I think that it's very apt to do that, because Chael my favorite trash talker of all time. And the reason that that is because Chael had the exact right ratio of the WWE style promo cutting with A, with comedy, and B, with like uh, um, an adaptation to mixed martial arts, I would say. This to me from this Hokit guy was a pale imitation of Chael, and it was so far into the WWE kind of more goofier style stuff that when you bring that into MMA, it just falls flat on its face as far as I'm concerned. Like I am pretty well documented as saying that I like to keep those two worlds separate. This is where you can have a little bit of overlap, like in your presentation and your promo cutting on the mic, because it's just talk. It's you're selling the fight, all that kind of stuff. Like that I'm good with, but you got to do it correctly. And this guy straight up goofballed it as far as I'm concerned. This was like Colby Covington levels of cringe, but with a worse like core messaging. I just everything about it just screamed like try hard, and it was very bad.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think one of the worst the worst bases that we have right now in MMA is like the American Patriot. These guys are so cringe and they're annoying and they give us a bad rep, guys. Like we don't really act like that. Like Sean Strickland, whatever he says on Twitter, it's like he does not act like that. Like that is not how he is. He just does that for fun. Like that's just what he does. So
You make a great point. I didn't even put two and two together on that. The American Patriot is like really a cringe presentation right now, and you're absolutely correct. Like we already we don't get political on the show, and I'm not going to, but I just
true.
as a small tiny kernel here, just want to say, like, the rest of the world kind of has a perception of America for a lot of different reasons. This does not help.
Yeah.
Like this really is, because not even the like the whole like America beating your chest patriotism aspect of it. The cringe of it is what I think is really the more detrimental part. And this dude does no favors for that.
I brought up Derek Lewis a little earlier, and he is a character in of itself, but he is also one of these political characters as well. Like some people forget often, this dude's a big Trump supporter, like, and he's very big about it. He'll talk about it in his post fights. He got the phone call. He was like, "I just talking to Trump." That's it, there's a line that you walk, and there's a way to do it that's like, we love Derek because he's himself, and that's what he believes. Okay, cool for it. But like this dude, it's like you can tell he's trying so hard to make you want to care, and I
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, plenty of fighters are political. I mean, anytime that Trump's at an event, they're all dapping him up and all that kind of stuff. I
I
mean, there's
actually prefer a political fighter. I think that makes like not in the American sense because they're fucking cringe, but like anybody who else is like super political about what what they stand for with their country. I think those are pretty solid, pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's like one of those debatable things where it's like patriotism versus politics, I guess, to an extent. This is neither to me, really. More
Mhm.
of this is theater, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. This is theatrics. This is portraying characters and stuff like that, and that's an element that I don't personally like all that much in MMA. And then when you do it to this level, I think it's really, yeah, cringe is just the only way to put it. Like I just remember watching it while he was going off, and like, I'm on the watch along or whatever, and just going back and looking at that, like just kind of like what is happening right now? One of those kinds of like, your head sort of tilts to the side and you're like, what is this? And
Oh,
yeah.
well, I think my question is okay, so he did get a finish and it was a decent performance. Do you think that warranted any sort of like mic performance after the fight? Was this the performance that made you so, yeah, it's time for the time for you to let loose that character that's inside?
The performance didn't necessarily deserve the level of character he was portraying, but that is also one of the things about the Contender series that I think we kind of, up until this point, really. I mean, I can't really think of another fighter that's necessarily utilized the platform in this way, but we don't really consider, because it's just sort of like ingrained in our minds that it's like we don't give it a second thought. But the fact that they do those interviews with the fighters after every fight and after their contracts and all that, that would be the time to do it. So, I mean, really, like the Contender series is not only your audition in the cage, it is your audition on the mic as well. I gotta get, I guess, at least give the guy credit for going for it as hard as he did, for that. So for that, all, I guess maybe I'm rethinking just a little bit, because it is. I mean, they specifically interview every fighter for that reason. This is your time to be on the mic and do whatever you want. So there you go, I guess. But still, cringe as fuck though. Is my
I
final assessment.
I actually dig the way that you're looking at it because it is really that you have your in ring tryout, and you got your promo tryout. I mean, if you make 2 and 2 work, I mean they instantly throw you into the pay per view. I mean, look at Malcolm Wellmaker. I mean, and I think that's actually, I know it's maybe not what they were going for, but deep down, I think that's a psychological thing with it. Is like you give them a chance to be lovable, and then you sit and stew on it, and then when you see him again, the crowd goes crazy because the camera's on him, and then they get the contract, and then it's like, wow, when can we see him next? And it's like, boom, 2 weeks, 3 months, whatever you want to say. So
I'm very glad you brought up Malcolm Wellmaker. Like, you got two wolves inside of you, future fighters. You can either go the Malcolm Wellmaker route or you can go the Josh Hokett route. Always choose the Wellmaker route because
yeah,
that kid he's an upstanding individual. I've seen a number of things online about the stuff that he's doing outside of the sport. Seems like a really really solid individual, like just a good human being on top of everything. And then he's knocking people out and getting the job done. That's a perfectly acceptable route. This guy over here took the I'm going to be the character. Shout out to TJF saying that the character is so forced. Yes, exactly. An imposition that you are putting on the audience to listen to this shit. Because think about it this way too, right? Like, I thought that it was very cringe, right? Had he not done that, I could have had a completely different perception of this guy. Like, I could be like, damn, Hokett, that might be the next guy up. Like, that might be my new guy. That might be my new heavyweight. Not off of this performance necessarily, but it could
no,
have been,
I get what you're saying. I mean, this just makes people want to hate you. Like people just aren't gonna like they. And what's crazy is about business and about entertainment is that's also a good thing. Like we
Right.
all are gonna want to see Mario Pinto put this dude on his back, but like, is that gonna happen? Who knows? Maybe he's actually gonna be very good. So be be interested by the level that this guy will go to be in the spotlight. Like he knew this was his one chance, and like what could I say that's gonna shock the world? And that was what he got. And some people don't need to do that. Some people can just, some people are real killers, and they go out there and they just speak random gibberish that I don't even understand, and it's like, whoa, shit, like, okay, good deal, like, and then they go on. So I don't know.
Uran Satabaldev needed two translators to get his message out in English, and he did his damn job. So
That's
you're
what I'm
exactly
saying.
right.
It's like, yeah, it's like just come out and look mysterious. That's an easy character to play. I mean, you don't have to go over the top. I mean, Hokik, you're a pretty big dude and a wrestler. That probably would have been good enough. Like, wow, he's a heavyweight wrestler. But like now he's just the annoying cringe guy. But either way.
Right. But yeah, exactly. But yeah, right. On the other side of the coin, we did just talk about him way more than we talked about Ramiro over here, who got a beautiful knockout and a great
Yeah,
performance. So
shout out Ramiro. Literally, I'm sorry, dude. I'm my bad, bro.
and it's
When
not
you
about
get
no,
into
no,
the league, I
yeah.
get you.
It's not about him or any of the other fighters. I mean, Josh Hokett, he commanded this amount of conversation out of us. So like, again, job well done. I understand being a heel. I get all of this. I get the pro wrestling side of all of this, and there is something to be said about keeping attention via that.
Mhm.
But like, again, there is a better way to do it in my estimation when it comes to this sport. If you want to be a pro wrestler, go pro wrestle. Then you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about actually knocking people out. How about that? I mean, like, what a great idea that is. You get to have a predetermined outcome to your matches there. You don't have to actually put the effort in to get a win.
Yeah, hate to break it to you, a lot of these people they couldn't handle pro wrestling. The scheduling, nah. The travel, no, no. You
Yeah,
know how many people miss a day of work a year? These guys would never handle it. Get out of here. Either way.
true, true. Well, whatever the case may be, shout out to Josh Hokett for getting this amount of conversation out of us and for winning his fight. We'll see how he does in the organization.
All right, Louis Lee Scott. I got 17 minutes to beat, so we will talk about you in length, buddy. Let's go.
Sure. All right. So this is was it Kaushik Saikumar? Yes, Kaushik Saikumar versus Lewis Lee Scott. Go for it, man. I know that you like this guy.
Yeah, Louis Lee Scott came in here, and to note right off the bat, missed weight. He was over. He says he has never done this in his career. He got a little sick, and whatever.
Half a pound, though. Just to
Yeah.
keep it in context.
They actually said they did some weird remedy. I think they did a salt bath, or they were about to do a salt bath to get that last half pound up, but they were like, just screw it. But either way, Louis Lee Scott comes in here at bantamweight as a Muay Thai guy, which you find out very, very soon because this dude puts the pause immediately on Saikumar. Saikumar actually, has some moments where he shoots for fucking heel hooks all throughout the fight. Like that's literally his fucking go-to. He's being trained by Ryan Hall. What do you expect? And it's funny when Ryan Hall walks out with somebody, you literally say, is he gonna heel hook him like all fight? Like, and then they go out there and they heel hook him all fight. Like it's ridiculously ineffective. Because one, you just don't score anything. Like as you see, Sycamore has 0 for 1 on takedowns, but like they got to the mat like 3 or 4 times off the heel hook kind of deal. So you don't score anything. You don't effectively get the position or submission. There were times where he could have gotten into a calf slicer, but Louis Lee Scott just maneuvered out of it and then kept the top position. Sycamore, I think he was failed by coaching. Not gonna lie, the Ryan Hall is not the game plan. And then what I also would like to say in Sykumar, I thought his grappling was decent enough when he actually got a hold of him that like, okay, he can control, got the back, I think at one point, whatever you want to say. Louis Lee Scott actually like pulled him off. It was a really good scramble. But going for the heel hooks really screwed him over. And then late into the third, he was just getting butchered by Louis Lee. Louis Lee Scott was dominating him, mixing up every strikes. And we'll talk about the main event here in a little bit. I thought Louis Lee Scott mixed up his strikes, was more creative than anybody on this card. Like this is a masterclass when it comes to kicking the legs, stomach, elbows, strikes, hooks, uppercut. Like he was literally doing everything. And just when it was crazy to see because there was no pattern to his striking. Like he genuinely was throwing a different strike after every strike. And it was just really good to see. And then Sycamore, unfortunately, folds in the third. And it's not even that he gets, he got hurt to the body. Yes, he was hurt. And, this is where, listen, if you want to be a fighter, these are the moments that you really got to push through it. If the body's not shutting down, you better fight, you better go. I better see it. I better see the will to want to be in the game. If you're the Contender Series, like these are the best of the best as of right now. So Sycamore, you were toe to toe with him. You were losing, but like you were about to go to the bell, which an Indian male fighter hasn't done in 2 fights now, 3 fights now, actually. Sorry. And the crazy part is they do themselves no favor, and this is what makes me so mad, is because if they could just finish to the bell, if they could get to the bell instead of what I will explain they do, they would get so much respect. Like they would actually get respect from people. Like, well, at least they made it to the bell. Like, well, they didn't get finished. Like they actually were, but the way they get finished is just so unsettling because like they're not getting okay. And Shujabli aside, Maman and Sai Kumar, Maman from Tough and Sai Kumar from Contender Series just now, like they stand there and they give the impression where it's like the stop hitting me pose. And then it's like, and then they have the second thought of like, oh, I can't do that, but then they get blasted to the fucking ground. And it's like, dude, like you can't do the cowering pose. Like you can't wave them off like the timeout time. That's exactly what Sycamore did. And as soon as you saw that, you knew it's fucking over. He literally just he verbally, insinuated, I'm done. Like I'm out. Please don't just stop.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I Sycamore kind of like there were a lot of issues I saw, and I mean, like I wouldn't necessarily put it 100% on the coaching, but I do think that there's definitely a big element there because, like, he wasn't mixing it up at all. I mean, that was the big problem is that once Louis Lee Scott started to like figure out the game plan that he had, like once he was like, okay, this guy is really just trying to get me to the ground. He's really trying to get the heel hook. He's really going for the legs, all that. Like, he's Louis Scott in the moment is processing information, and that I do give him some credit for because he did have to be a little quick on his feet to navigate all of what was coming at him from the grappling perspective. Once he started to get that down, Sai Kumar had no other method of attack. He had no other strategy. And like I kept like thinking like, bro, like, are you going to throw punches at all? Like, are you going to use your hands in any other way aside from wrapping them around this dude's legs? And it was a constant, like you go back to the well so many times. Speaking of Ryan Hall, we brought that up on the watch along where it was like, I was waiting for this dude to do the Uminori roll and just get blasted in the face like how Ilya did, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a prime example of what happens when you are constantly going to the same well and coming up dry. So this dude was really doing that way too much, and it gave Scott all the time in the world to get himself comfortable, to find the rhythm, to navigate through all of those positions. And once he did, he started opening up in a better way. And then Sai Kumar had no answers. And you're exactly right about the body language, the optics in this sport. We'll talk about we have talked about many times, like where you have let's say you have a close fight.
Mhm.
And you're seeing two fighters that are like neck and neck. A lot of times the visual representation of the fighter, the way that they're carrying themselves, holds a lot of weight. It really, really does. I remember, I forgot which fight it was, but it was one of the female fights we were talking about recently where she had gotten cut. And it was like it was one of the side of the eye cuts, and it was bleeding very heavily. But it was a cosmetic cut, but the blood itself plus the body language was giving more of an impression than like that she was being battered and butchered than was actually happening, in my opinion. But the optics were what was selling it. When you are out there, like exactly what you were saying with Sai Kumar, please don't hit me, cowering. That is a look from the judges that is just me like, all right, this guy's cooked. I mean, he's done. Like, so you're absolutely correct on all fronts with all of this. I mean, like, now the one thing I will push back on just a little bit is that I did not necessarily think that Scott was the greatest. I mean, he didn't have a lot of opposition coming back from Sai Kumar when it came to the striking, so he probably could have done a little bit better earlier, I thought. But it is the Contender series. This dude is, I mean, he's 10-0, so I guess he does have some decent experience under his belt now. Overall, I thought that there was probably like I didn't necessarily see Scott and think that, oh, this guy is going to be next up in the division, but he certainly did well enough to get a contract here. I think that it was a fine navigation of something that he might experience in the UFC. And when it comes to the grappling and all that kind of stuff, good enough performance. He would have been the only other one that got a contract that I was like kind of questionable about, but I'm not angry at it at all. So
I think what's only going to be concerning, I mean, not concerning, but the only narrative going forward for Louis Lee Scott is that, oh, he didn't finish the Indian guy in first round. Like that's basically what's going to happen. Like, he waited until the third round to get the finish, or he couldn't get the finish until the third round. That's the only thing that people are going to be able to say about him going forward. Because I mean, he proved he's the IQ's there when it comes to the scrambles defending a leg lock. I mean, you at least know that if somebody's going to shoot on him and just go for a heel hook every single time, he can get out of it for the most part. He can get it. He can get out of that, and he can strike his ass off. So, as of right now, I mean, is he any better or less than Elijah Smith? I mean, who knows? Before the slam, whatever you want to say. I mean, Louis Lee Scott is probably going to be, I would say, a little better than that. Okay.
true. Actually, before we move on from this fight, I do want to. This is actually a pretty good question that relates to this. Is that basically the gist here is like, how much do you think that the body language counts when compared to the striking numbers? Like, do you think that the judges are taking the body language into consideration more than the actual strike amount?
I don't know about that, but I do know that the judging does not know the striking numbers. If we get a separate tally from the striking, they're just making their own assumptions out there because we already know the score. The people who score the striking, they're already fucking wrong. So the judging, they're going to be fucking wrong too. So whatever they see, that's law. And if they see a dude who looks like they're getting their ass whooped, they're just going to go with it. And we'll talk about it here in the China card. So
Absolutely, and that was going to be my answer as well. Basically, is that the optics are the strike numbers. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like what you even as a viewer. I mean, the judges are essentially viewers too. But even as a viewer, like you can tell when a dude is outstriking another guy, when a dude is getting his ass kicked. Like these are things that are like apparent unless it's extremely neck and neck. So
I'll give you
all it is optics.
Yeah, no, I'll give you a real answer right here. When you are a judge watching live, when you are a fan watching live, they're in an enclosed cage that does have blind spots. Judging could clearly not see a shot if it lands or not if they're behind the fucking podium part of it, or the cameraman's big ass is standing in front of them, whatever you want to say. I mean, it, who knows how they're able to see how clear a shot is landing? Like, do you think that they're in the skybox and they have binoculars watching down on them? I don't know. I don't think that they're able to get, I think we have the best seat in the house at home, to be honest with you. But, like, do the judges see what we're seeing? Probably not because they're there's so many things going on. But what if the judge is ADHD, dude? Like the dude's getting popcorn over here, and then now there's a Pepsi product over there. What is this dude doing with his life? Who knows? And
Right.
it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, the end all of that is just optics are the entirety of this sport as far as I'm concerned. So, you like for to negate what you just described there, Chase, you create your own optics, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And that's really what you need to do. So body language plus striking.
Yeah.
They're really one and the same in a way. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. This is Brandon Holmes versus Cam Rouston. Rouston got himself a nice knockout here. Not too much to say about this one, except that it was pretty dominant. I mean, Rouston looked good, and that's really about it as far as I can remember. It was another pretty quick one.
Well, I mean, we'll definitely get into the discussion that I had with the Discord after this guy, but I will spoil the news for you if you have not heard. But he does have a fight booked for Perth. It is against the man, the myth, Andre Petrosky.
Oh, let's go! I did not know that. I think I remember him asking for a fight in Perth, but I didn't know that he actually got one booked. That's cool.
Yeah, that did happen, but it is a big jump up for Cam Rouston, and I'll tell you why. This is somebody who, and Discord, they have labeled this guy as a killer, quote unquote, and I'm like, I mean, I've seen some pretty good people coming up, and contender series do normally breed a lot of good talent. I will admit this dude's good. I mean, he knocked somebody out on the contender series. Sure, he's good. But is he great? I'm soon to find out. Killer, we will soon find out. But like this guy, he lost to Torres Finney. I mean, I mean, he already had his debut. He already had his contender series shot, and he lost to Torres Finney. And then he wanted to blame the judges in his fucking contender series little promo or whatever. So he comes in here and gets a finish that's good, calls out for Perth, and he gets a really tough matchup. I mean, if you want to call out your shot in Perth on short notice, the people who are going to take a short notice matchup are tough matchups. So Andre Petrosky, I think, is going to have a probably an easy time with this. And I hate to say easy that way, but like he has been in the UFC, well tested. He should be fine. He's only had one real fluke kind of ish loss. The other ones, he's been fine. And even in the ones that he's lost that I've seen, like, ain't no big deal. We've seen worse. Cam Rowston, though, for somebody who's 12-3 to just walk in on short notice, and listen, and we were just talking about what Wellmaker. This is exactly what the Contender Series is for. You come out here, you get a finish, you have your moment on the mic, you call your shot, boom, you get it. That's exactly hot shotting at its finest. And if this dude can pull off the Andre Petrosky thing, I will admit that he's a lot better than I'm going to give credit for a 12-3 guy coming out of the Contender Series. I will say that. So
True. Yeah. No, you make a lot of good points with that. I mean, first of all, I think that we do need to acknowledge that Torres Finney is the GOAT. That's just off rip. So I don't.
three-time fucking Contender Series champ. Like
Like,
what?
yeah, exactly. Shorts hanging in the apex. But I mean, the point does stand though. I mean, if Torres Finney is able to take him down, do all of what Torres
Take him
Finney
all
does,
the way around town. I know you were about to
that's
say that. Like,
exactly,
dang.
exactly. He's giving him a tour of the octagon. Then Andre Petrosky is definitely going to be able to do that. That's what he is known for. That's his specialty, is laying on top of people.
Yeah.
So that all being said, this would signal to me probably one of those times where we talk about how different being in the actual organization is versus being on the Contender Series, and a jump like that to Petrosky from Contender Series is a huge jump. And I mean, granted, Petrosky is kind of a patchy dude. He's a candy cane fighter, win loss kind of deal, but he is a grizzled, seasoned veteran at this point. And I don't think that Rouston has anywhere near the stripes to be able to match up to something like that, even in the striking, honestly. And I know that sounds wild, but like just the difference in the experience is going to be very apparent there. So yeah, great win on the Contender Series now, gets himself the knockout and gets himself into the organization. But as I always say, the Contender Series is the beginning of the road, not the end.
If this dude was unable to defend takedowns from Torres Finney that have no strikes to set them up, Andre Petrosky's going to box the bloody head off him and then take him down and then lay on him. But that's just my opinion. If I'm wrong, Cam Rouston, I will admit, if you win against Andre Petrosky and you knock him out or something, you will have a fan in me. And that's normally, listen, I'm not an easy client. I'm not somebody who's easy to please. Not everybody's the greatest to me They have to show me that they're great. Until you get that weathered opponent that I believe is truly worth, rooting for against you, and you prove me wrong, then okay, I have to believe it. Like, I have to believe you're better than what I thought was great, because I only root for great people. I'm just a great fighter type of guy. I don't root for bums. And so, Cam Ralston, I'm really excited to see what you're about to do, and I really hope that you prove that you are somebody to be, reckoned with, because this is a short turnaround and a tough matchup, and I am really excited to see it. So, shout out.
Yeah. I mean, if he can defend the takedowns from Petrosky, then yeah, you'll definitely make a fan out of me. It's like I was just having a conversation with our buddy Rwand recently. Shout out to Rwand, the goat. But he was asking me like, if Pereira beats Ankalaev, do you think that he'd be pound for pound? And I was like, only if he is able to withstand some ground game, because that was the big glaring hole. And to me, the pound for pound needs to have no holes in the game. It needs to be able to be great everywhere and do everything. So I say that to say, if Cam Ralston goes out there and knocks out Andre Petrosky, cool, great. That's really, really good. Now you've knocked out a veteran and coming off a knockout win on the Contender Series, fantastic. But it would not signal to me that his game is holeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to be a well-rounded mixed martial artist in this sport. So I need to see that as well. And if he's having problems with Torres Finney, has problems with the Andre Petrosky's takedowns, whatever, we'll see. I mean, these are all going to be, things that will come to light over time. I'm just saying I need to see a little bit more. So when you say, it's like if he beats Andre Petrosky, that's great. I want to see all of the skill set before I can make an accurate assessment.
100%. I definitely agree. And I think that leads perfectly into this next segment for the next fight.
Sure thing. Well, this is the featured fight on the week 2 of the Contender Series, and this was an absolute banger over here. This is Manuel Exposito versus Jose Delano, and I was very impressed with both of these guys.
I want to know, well, like, okay, well,
what, Chase? What?
listen. So we're talking about not showing holes in the game. Okay, Jose Delano did striking. He did the striking thing against an opponent who clearly didn't know how to throw punches or defend punches. That's why I'm like, how are you so impressed with our guy from Argentina? Now, shout out to him. He can take a fucking punch. Like, this dude can get cracked for 3 rounds and his head doesn't move when it happens. That's the craziest part. But in no way did he have a chance here. Like, this was another one of those, they matched up 2 different levels of skill here. Like, this guy is just on another level of striking, and I don't know if Exposito was like a wrestler, or they expected him to actually have something different to offer, because, like, if he's a knockout guy, boy, did they miss the mark. All he does is just throw big old bombs and miss. Like, did people stand in front of him for 3 or 6 fights or something? Like, I don't know. How did he get 13 wins if this is his striking? Like, it was actually pretty nuts to see. And the fact that he didn't go down was pretty nuts. I mean, he did show some pretty big heart. He was getting fucked up, but Jose Delano didn't show me that he could defend a takedown, if he knows, how to throw a submission up, or he knows how to defend if somebody walks him down, things like these. This isn't the performance that I was going to see it, but I'm just saying, I don't know if those things are in his game, because all I can see is him throw punches at a guy that doesn't know how to do anything back.
Well, he did get clinched up a couple of times and was able to fight that off. So I mean,
Fair.
there
Okay.
is that aspect of it for Delano. But
Okay, we got clinch striking and striking. I'll give it to you. Okay.
well, I would class that as takedown defense to an
Okay, fair.
extent. I mean, it wasn't like he was going for like the double leg and got around his waist or anything, but he was at least able to stay on his feet when there were attempts there. I mean, and obviously, I mean, there were 2, so he did have to get back up at a couple times, So, but either way, I mean, I think that what was impressive to me was the movement of Delano. I thought that he was really, I felt, just outmaneuvering a lot of the time, and that Exposito just wasn't able to get the striking off that he might have otherwise had. Like, he definitely did not seem like the fastest competitor, Exposito, and Delano, I think, was using that to his advantage. That's fine to me. I mean, like, that's a fine way to navigate if that's where your strengths lie. Like, if you can be the faster fighter and get out of the way of the shots, then that always I thought very impressive there. Exposito was definitely taking a good amount of shots. The one thing that I kept saying over and over on the watch along for this was that I just felt that Delano did not have a lot of power in his hands. That would be the detriment to me, because I think that once you get a little bit more evenly matched with some of the fighters that you're going to be facing in the division when you're in the organization, the power is going to be a big differentiator. Like, the speed is going to be almost even, I would think, with a lot of the fighters that you're going to be going up against, and you're going to have to be more powerful at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Exposito goes, like I was impressed with the fact that he was able to keep going forward, because that to me was what was standing out. Was you could definitely tell that the guy has heart. And how many times have we seen, bro? We were just literally talking last week about the guy who fought Hamzat's little buddy there and just folded to one kick. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at least I was seeing a fighter that wanted to win. He was not backing down, and that's where like the power differential came into play, because it's like he was walking forward. Yo, punch me again, dude. I'm gonna take the shots. Like, I will try my hardest. So I was at least impressed with that, even if the hands weren't there.
I 100% agree with all that. I'm excited to see what is next for a lot of these people. This was the first week of the year that we got 5 contracts signed. And so shout out to everybody who's going to be in the UFC here soon. Hopefully you understand that this is your opportunity. Don't sit back and sit on a contract waiting for the perfect fight. Get your ass in the cage, get that opponent, and go win some goddamn fights, because I'm ready to see some knockouts.
Same, absolutely. So this was a good one, and of course we will both be on to watch the Contender series when that comes back around, and that is tomorrow. So
Hell
be
yeah.
aware.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, before we move on to the big deal of the evening, the uh, Shanghai card, Chase, what's up?
I wanted to give everybody a shout real quick. If you are listening to the stream right now, I want you to be known that there is a link in the description for the item of the week, and it is going to help you going forward in the sport. It is called Mixed Martial Arts for Dummies. Everybody, this is the item that you should be clicking on right now to show a lot of support for the channel and make sure that you know that Frank Shamrock. It wasn't Ken, it was Frank Shamrock. That is the author of this, and he obviously is going to give you guys great pointers on what not to think when you're watching some of these fights, and we're going to get into a lot of things that you shouldn't be thinking. So I wanted to drop that little tidbit and shout out to Amazon for sponsoring this portion of the fucking live stream. And by the way, before I end this and before we get into the card, I wanted to let Yama lead you guys into a little tidbit on the video that he just dropped a little bit ago. Go talk about that.
Sure. Well, yeah, just to finish this up real quick. Yeah, if you click the link, there's no extra charge. It's just a pass through. You click, you buy this item. We get a little bit on the back end. No extra charge to you. So support the show. Easy way to do it.
Yeah.
That being said, let's go back over here. And there was a mention earlier in the chat. Shout out to Beeb always, who was asking about the situation with Raja Jackson. And a couple people were talking about that. Also, Sigma brought that up as well. Shout out to everybody who's hanging out with us live. Appreciate all you guys. I really, put a video out about it, gave my thoughts about it. There is a more definitive video that I have found that has a little bit of extra footage in there. And I'm hoping that within the next couple of days, I can get a reaction video out going over that video, because it does add a little bit more context. Obviously a terrible situation. I go into all of the details that I had at the time in the video that I made. A little bit of extra context maybe coming a little bit later in the week, so keep an eye out for that. Chase, I mean, we haven't talked about it on stream at all. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to add to that whole conversation?
No, I actually think a lot of the opinions that I share are in the latest video that Yama has posted. If you really want to hear a lot of things that I probably would agree with publicly, you should go watch the video that Yama has out. I share a lot of opinions with it.
Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it's really, honestly, I don't even want to bring the vibe of this stream
Right.
down by going into it, because it's such a horrible, honestly, a legitimate tragedy in my opinion. And there's a lot of reasons for it. And again, I don't mean to keep teasing the upcoming stream, but I do, if you watch the video that I did, I really do recommend that you at least catch the VOD or try to catch the stream live, because I think that some of the additional context that I'm going to have from this other video that we're going to be watching adds a lot of greater surrounding elements to why all of this took place. So we'll leave it at that, and we can move on to this card.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to throw the whole wrench in the mud, but I did want to give you a shout out on the video, and obviously people were asking about it. So, if you are curious, again, one more time, make sure to watch the latest video that Yama put out on the Raha situation.
Appreciate that. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes over here. This is UFC Fight Night. Walker versus Zhang. This took place in Shanghai, China at the Shanghai Indoor Stadium. Off rip, I love the fact that the Shanghai Indoor Stadium is just called that. We are in an era and a time where the sponsorships are, we've got
The BBC arena.
exactly. I mean, so like I up there on my big shelf of DVDs, one of my favorite movies is a movie called Basketball. And if you have never seen Basketball, highly recommend. One of the funniest movies of all time, in my opinion. But they make a joke in there that you've got like the Preparation H Arena and the Tampax Arena, Tampax Stadium, all this kind of stuff. China, it's the Shanghai Indoor Stadium. Where is it? It's in Shanghai. What is it? It's an indoor stadium.
Nice.
End of story. Get out of here.
Yeah, no, I actually loved it too. I was explaining, because I go into my real life and I talk to people about fights and the experience, because these are different cultures and different regions. Like, the arenas are not just made for the everyday event where they put up a cage in the middle of it. No, this is an arena where the middle of the fucking thing is. It just feels different. I don't know, guys. It's hard to explain. Like, when the opening shot, you could see like this is a place to watch fights. Like, this is not a fucking indoor volleyball arena. Like, I don't know. It's
It
just,
was massive, by the way. Like,
yes.
it went, like, you saw the crowd shots, man. It goes up so far. I was like, man, these guys are really packing it in. And of course, you and I just did our review of the Smashing Machine, and obviously China and Japan, two different countries, of course. But what stood out to me from the crowd elements of Smashing Machine was just how many people they pack in and what the interest in the sport is. So it was really nice to see that from the Chinese crowd as well.
Hydra just brought up the best question, of course, with pertaining to the crowd. The crowd was awesome, and it wasn't because they were like booing when they needed to be, but like they were bringing the energy. Like, when the fight was high up on their guy, they were up. When it was down, they weren't up. They were crickets. Like, there was nobody supporting the outsider, whatever you want to say. And like that, it's a cool vibe when you can feel that everybody who's there is like actually engaged in what's happening. Like, it's like there's like a sound wave going on, and you can just feel the energy. Even at home, you could just feel the crowd going crazy. So,
Well, yeah, the one thing with that was interesting to me was obviously culturally, China is they're a little bit more regimented. They're not as loose. They're a little bit more. I would say. Conservative is not the right word, but they're kind of, again, regimented.
okay.
They're very strict with their presentation, and so it was like every time that there was a shot that would land, you just heard in unison the big pop, and then it would drop. And
Yeah.
so it was just like, man, they really are they work as a unit, and I
It's
thought
like
that
the
was
Wii crowd.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Just up, down, up, down. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was very, very neat. Yeah, I thought the crowd was great. I thought that the vibe was really cool. And as you had mentioned at the start of the stream, it was early in the morning for us. This was a fine card to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning for.
Yeah, I definitely was excited for it. There's one more part of the promotion, or the whatever the thing I'm trying to think of. But I want to go ahead and give one more shout out to, the presentation is the word I was thinking for. The translator. She was awesome. We're gonna go ahead and shout her out early. We're gonna go ahead and, if we need to find her name, can somebody go ahead and find it? She needs to be in America translating to any language and I don't even care. She could just do it to China. Like, she could literally have her own broadcast booth, and I would watch. She's cool. So,
Chase, I pride myself on the motto of pimpin' never simpin'.
mhm.
That's kind of how I try to live my life. I stand translator girl, adorkable little nervous translator girl is Bay.
Yeah.
That girl, she was a cutie patootie. And every time that she would be out there with her little notepad, I was just falling in love each time, over and over again. So yes, translator girl was the GOAT of this event. Absolutely. People were getting on her case for not knowing Volkanovski. she's a casual, bro. What are you gonna do? Like, she's out there. She's
She's
trying her
learning
best.
languages too.
Exactly. She has multiple languages that she knows. She's nervous as hell. She's got her notepad. She's wearing a nightgown basically, it looked like when you're like with a chick and she puts your shirt on the next morning. Like that's kind of what it looked like to me. So, so all of these elements, play into her being in there. You got to cut her some slack on the Volkanovski thing because she was the cutest thing on this card. Definitely cuter than the other translator that they had. One of the guys who I think it was Yisha? I think it might have been Yisha who has had his own translator, who's a dude, and I was like, where did this guy come from? But whatever. Anyway, so yes, no, translator girl was great. You want to talk about some fights?
Yeah, no, dude, I'm ready. Yeah, no, we could talk about the translator girl some more. She was cool.
Oh, I certainly could.
All
All right, let's get into it though. This first one up here was Uran Satabaldiev versus Dair Nurgashai. This was a really nice performance for Uran.
I hate myself because I'm really good at what I do and what I do is make hunches. And so I actually found out that Uran and Miktabek, they are friends or uncles. They're close
Oh,
friends, probably uncles is what they say, but like they grew up together kind of deal.
okay.
So when I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, so he definitely knows how to grapple. I don't care how many knockouts he has. He knows how to wrestle. And when I saw the sub line was plus 800, I was really hoping people would take it because I was really confident because this Dyer Nurgashai guy, I was sorry guys, this guy is just so not great, and we knew it. Like we knew he wasn't good, and we watched him lose to a guy who threw 3 strikes and then put up one of the most rare chokes in the game. Like it genuinely was hilarious to just like to know that you give a guy who grew up with Miktabek, he gon' choke a guy out, and you know it for facts. Like that's just how good the aura of Orabai is, and that's all that I'm gonna go ahead and chalk this one up to. Like I knew he was gonna choke him out. Did I think he was gonna do it with the Ezekiel choke? No, but like I also would like to note I ain't had a day of training in my life, but I even was sitting there like, man, he's setting up the Ezekiel choke like Volkov did that one time. Like, it's you can just see it sometimes. You guys are just if you're locked in, you're locked in.
Literally have Volkov would be proud in the notes. It was
Nice.
very, very nice. Yeah, no, this not only did he have that, the rare Ezekiel, but almost got a very nasty Kimura for a second there too. That was almost tough to watch for a minute.
I always do like I always hit like the look away kind of thing
Yeah.
when Kimura's happen, but you are right. Let me go ahead and give all right, Nurgashai, you are not the worst guy ever. I will tell you that because there are not 500 people in this world that would be able to roll out of a Kimura like that. Like genuinely, I mean, I don't know how his arm didn't break because like that was so crazy. But the fact he rolled out of it makes it even like nuttier. Like that was it was like he was in reverse. Like it's like they hit like the rewind, like and
Yeah.
he just went back. It was so crazy, but genuinely scary. But saw Uran. I mean, once he saw that, he was like, all right, fuck it, I gotta mount him and just smother him, and that's exactly what he did. Shout out to this guy because he's gonna be good. He's gonna be good at light heavyweight, I think.
Yeah, Sadabaldiev definitely lived up to the expectations that I had for him in this one. And also, I mean, we talk about all of the submission game stuff, but don't forget that this all started with a cannon shot that he landed, which was really really funny to me because like the way that he cocked back, bro, like
Yeah,
he literally drew back and fired, and it just landed perfectly. Yeah, I mean, Nurgashai just ain't it, bro. I mean,
yeah.
like we kind of knew that already, but like this certainly showed it.
I actually I'm excited to go through this card because yeah, it was so early after an all-nighter party. I'm telling you, I forgot. Yeah, dude, that shot he landed on him. You're right, dude. He just cocked that motherfucker back and just whopped it. And then it's crazy because like this dude landed 3 strikes, bro. And you're gonna tell me you got dropped off of like come on. It's not even like he grounded pounded him either. He had no ground strikes that came after it. He said he set him up. He was like a 1, and then maybe threw something else out there, and then just cocked back the right hand and just dropped him. Like what in the world? Like Nurgashai had no answer for it. Like that's the craziest part. Like and then he goes to the ground, almost gets his arm ripped off. Like this this guy stepped up and fought a guy 60 pounds heavier than him in his last fight or some shit.
Yeah.
And like shout out to him. I mean, don't get discouraged by anything. Come in here and fucking kill this guy. I love it. This
Yeah,
guy's
I say,
awesome.
I think I said exactly that. Uran Satabaldiev is like he's next up on the list of guys that I'm rooting for. I really like this guy.
Yeah, he's about his
Um,
shit.
he's in the cool hat club as well. Had a cool hat, appreciated that. And also, this was our first instance of dueling translators because we had Russian translator and Chinese translator. And I did wanted to give a quick shout out to the Russian translator guy, the bald dude. He never gets as much love. You know, I likened it to Bruce Buffer and Martinez because like Buff obviously is the man, but Joe Martinez is a perfectly fine announcer as well. But it's like, you know, their levels. So Fabiano gets a lot of shine off of his translation, but I don't even know bald translator dude's name. I got to find out the guy's name so I can shout him out properly. But yeah, you know, big shout out to that dude as well. And shout out to Uran Sadabaldiev for getting the job done because he really went out there and did the damn thing. Nurgashai didn't even have time to do his little eye wipey thing. He did it a couple times, but like, you know, it wasn't as prevalent as it would have been if the fight had gone on longer.
I wonder. I actually would love to go back and watch the clip again. Did he actually wipe his eye right before he got fucking destroyed by a right hand? Like, I don't know.
It's true. I'd have to go back and check on that one. But either way, I mean, the fact that that is even a tick in the first place is just so wild to me. But regardless, Satabaldiev gets the job done. Shout out to that guy.
100%.
All right, moving on to the next one. This is Zhao Long versus Su Young Yu. Now, I mean, you have been talking a whole bunch about you having staff. I looked it
Dude.
over. I saw he had a little bit of weird stuff on his
It
chest, but on his face, didn't it look maybe acne? I
I
don't know.
I'm thinking it was either hives or staph. When you watch the pre-fight promo video and he's talking, dude, he's got it like all in his eyes and like around his eyes and then his neck, of course. And then, dude, if you in the fight, yeah, the bruising and stuff, yeah, it looks like the cupping stuff. But like if you look at his shoulder, dude, it's like he's been scratching himself like tremendously. I don't know what was going on with Su Young Yu, but it definitely concerned me after I picked him. I'm sitting here putting money on a dude who looks like he's visibly breaking out to something. And we've already seen that Brian Ortega had to be hospitalized and then they continued to make him fight. I would assume Su Young Yu probably needed to pull out as well, but we don't pull out in China. We're not fucking up the promotion, buddy. You're going to fucking fight. So he probably came in here having an allergic reaction to something, shellfish related. I don't know, whatever happens out there. But like, Su Young Yu still put on a masterclass performance on the feet for a dude against an opponent like Zhao Long, who's very wild, very confident in his striking too, which is very deadly combination. You know, he's wild, he's good, and he's confident. You know, it could be deadly. Su Young Yu though, as somebody who's supposed to be a jujitsu guy, is only a striker, and he's pretty damn good at it though. That's what's funny about it. Is like I
Well,
guess it's just a ploy. I think it really is a ploy.
I mean, that was going to be my big lead-in note is that I'm tired of this guy calling himself Jiu-Jitsu yet never grappling. Stop teasing us with this nickname and not delivering on it because this dude did literally zero of it. I mean,
Mhm.
there was nothing as far like they're counting. Yeah, okay, never mind. I read a different stat and I was like, where the hell did 4 takedowns come from? No, that is not the stat. So
Yeah.
that did not happen. Yeah, nothing. Nothing grappling wise at all. I don't understand where this jujitsu thing comes from with him because now this is 2 fights in a row. I think we said the same exact note about his last fight. So I don't know. I mean, like as far as the striking goes with him, I was I was not like super. I mean, this was a kind of even fight. Like this was, or like there were times where it kind of shifted either way. I remember. I mean, like I thought that it was a little bit of a robbery, honestly. Like I mean, it's a petty theft. That it was what I thought. Because I gave Zhao Long 2 of those rounds.
See, and this is what's crazy because we're going to talk about another fight later. Is I genuinely think Su Young Yu won this. Like, I mean, that this was no like me and a leader talking, and you know, every time I have to fight, he's like, dude, I think Zhao Long won that first round. And like, I'm sitting here very confident, like, oh no, you know, Su Young Yu won that first round. Second round happens, he comes in, he's like, Zhao Long probably won that second round as well. I'm like, not a chance. No, second round was definitely Su Young Yu. Third round, I'll give it to you. I'll give Zhao Long the third round, if anything. But in my opinion, Su Young Yu was clear cut the favorite until he started to gas out towards the end. But he was really cooking him on the feet. He was too evasive. He was too locked into the moment. Zhao Long really did, like, look, 229 strikes thrown and he only landed 81 of them. Like, I mean, Su Young Yu on paper, from what the judges and the score and the stat keepers are looking at, I mean, he was really locked the fuck in on defense, and shout out to him. I mean, he, I, I think it was a good performance, and we'll talk about another one later that maybe is the same type of performance where it's close and you could be on either one. But yeah, I had money on Su Young Yu, and that's how it goes. Yeah, that's my boy, and he won.
Yeah, I mean, I also picked him and worked out, so I was good with that, but I was a little skeptical. I thought it was 1-1 going into the third. I gave you the second round. It really didn't start turning up until the third round. I mean, like
Hmm.
they were kind of point striking a good amount of it. Even though Xiao Long was like kind of wild at certain points. Like I guess they were saying his trademark is the jump knee, and I was like, well, he needs to tighten that bitch up if that's that's the
They
case, because that was
oh
not very impressive.
no,
Um,
they when they started the fight, they went for the glove touch, and Zhao Long ran across the cage and tried to do the knee, and they're like, "That's his move. That's his move right
That
there."
yeah, exactly. I was like, Okay, I guess. I mean, like it certainly didn't look like it should be his move if that's the case. But um, so yeah, but no, so they start getting a little bit more heavy in the third round. I thought that Zhao Long landed the better strikes in that round, but I was kind of impressed with the elbow spam at the end. And now, granted, it is not strategically savvy, so keep that in mind. The elbow spam is gonna, for a different fighter, is gonna people will be throwing overhand looping shots right over that all day long. But it was certainly entertaining.
These guys, they did the Max Holloway for the entire last minute of the fight. That was pretty funny. It's like
Yeah,
they had so much time on the clock. I don't think they realized it, but like they went for it, and Zhao Long is doing like his little like his little moves, and then Su Young Yu is obviously throwing back, but they went on for so long. Like, and that was genuinely hilarious. Like, wow, this is what the China fans really deserve, is a fight like this. Like Korea and China having a showdown in the middle of the fucking cage. Neither of them going down. It goes down to the bell to a split decision. Gotta love to see it.
yeah, true. So, I mean, like I said, I didn't agree with the decision on this one, but it was close. I mean, this is petty theft at best, as far as like the optics of it to me, because it was definitely closer than it should have been. Like somebody should have pulled ahead a little bit more to make this more definitive, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. I just thought it was kind of interesting if like the hometown goes in the wrong direction. It almost feels like they're trying to play like the we're not biased card a little bit, but I don't know if that's necessarily what this was. I'm not super upset by it not going the way that I thought that it went. Like I said, I picked you to win the fight anyway, so like it worked out in my favor. But just being unbiased, I thought that it was maybe a little bit wrong. But either way, one other thing to note though, before we move on, is did you catch that instance? They did the picture in picture of Zhao Long's corner man between rounds, literally picking him up and carrying him to the corner.
Well, listen. Um, I have another thing that we'll add on the end of this too,
Okay,
but
sure.
I showed you the clip in Thailand where they were picking the females up and carrying them to the corner. It's a thing. I don't know. Science. I don't know, man.
I
Saves
think
their
that
energy.
I think I literally had mentioned that on the watch along. I'm like, we were just talking about this, me and Chase. But yeah, it was that was an interesting thing. I had not seen that before. But one thing I also wanted to mention with that, and then I'll let you get your point
Yep.
out and we can move on here. But uh Legion Liang was on the Chinese commentary, and they kept saying that he was cornering the Chinese fighters. Um, what the reason I bring that up here is because that's where they picked up Zhao Long from. Was he was in front of Li Jingliang getting advice, and he got picked up and brought to his side of the cage. This should not happen. This is something that I do actually kind of have a little bit of a hard stance on. Like, you should not. It should not be allowed that there is like American commentary should not be doing that. Chinese no commentary should be in there giving advice to the fighters. Like that's a to me an overstep and kind of a conflict of interest sort of thing. I would not be okay with that. If I was Si Young Yu, I would that would be something that after the fight I would probably have something to say about, because I like that should not, you should not be getting an extra boost because you're in your home country.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That is kind of weird. I guess I didn't really put two and two together on that. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. What I really feel about that. Interesting. But the one thing last that I wanted to note is when you know how they do the side by side when they're announcing the fight. You know when they're announcing the winner or whatever.
Yeah.
If you watch them announce Su Young Yu, you will watch Xiao Long look like the world has just beat the fuck out of him, bro. Like, dude, he's standing there and they keep the camera on him so long, and he's so he's like, what do you like? Really? Like, he's about to cry, dude. It was the craziest thing ever. I felt so bad. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I won money, but damn, he looked like he lost everything. Like,
It's funny that you do mention that because you've mentioned things like that in the past, and like I don't always pick up on that, but this time I did, and I was just like, oh man, soul sucking. That would have been a perfect one for somebody to do, like how people do those fighter edits or whatever on like Instagram. It would be perfect because that is how could this happen to
yeah,
me? Like
yeah,
that's definitely one of those like right there.
yeah.
Yeah, that it certainly was unfortunate. I kind of feel him though. Like I said, I thought he
Dude,
won the fight, so.
well, and this is somebody that like when you're watching the sport, like he just came in from the road to the UFC. He put on a great performance, and he comes in here and puts on another good performance. But like, you just know that he cares. Like, he really cares about this shit. Like, that broke his fucking heart, bro. Like, he didn't win in front of his home country. Like, I mean, what else is there for him? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I get it. I do get it. But shout out to him though, because it was a competitive fight. And so,
for
you
sure.
were like what you were talking about with the Indian fighter from the Contender series. Like this is one of those ones where it's like both guys get to the bell. It's like, you really can't fault either of these guys as far as like their effort goes.
Yeah,
They definitely neither of them have anything to be ashamed of, I would say.
100%.
All right, moving forward here.
Speaking of something to be
I
ashamed of,
mean, bro, let's get into it. Yija versus Weston Wilson. Now, coming into this fight, we're on the watch along. Shout out to everybody who was up early on the watch along. It was a really fun one. Hydra in the chat was one of those people. Appreciate you. But yeah, so we're talking about Weston Wilson coming in this, and I was saying like, man, Weston Wilson is just a bit of an aura vacuum. He's like he might be a legitimate NPC of this sport. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. This is not a personal statement. There's nothing to do with him as a human being. But like commentary had said that Weston Wilson asked for this fight specifically. He wanted to be here and he wanted to fight Yija. I said, why did Weston Wilson fly all the way to China for this? What? Explain this to me, Chase. You got to know more than I do.
there's nothing more to know. I mean, I, I genuinely don't get it. I mean, if this is how you're gonna perform, Weston Wilson, you could have let Jekka Sergey knock you out, dude. There was no reason for you to submit him in the first round. That was just unfortunate for Jekka. But like Yiza, he had no fucking problem walking in there and beating the shit out of Weston Wilson. And Weston Wilson, unfortunately, doesn't know how to do anything. He literally just doesn't know how to block, doesn't know how to strike, doesn't know how to shoot when he's in danger. He just and shout out to the Mank in the Discord one more time. He is always trying to let me know. And sometimes I expect more out of somebody in the next fight, but like some people, they genuinely just don't like getting hit. And shout out to the Mank for pointing that out. It's like Weston Wilson gets punched and dude, he fucking cowers. Like that's just what happens. And literally just gets folded, thrown against the cage like he's in a fucking car wreck in the first exchange. Like no, it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say he doesn't like getting hit, and that's certainly true. But it's amazing to me that that's the case when Weston Wilson just floats his hands out. I would say I describe it as he floats his hands out in low face orbit, like low Earth orbit, for satellites. That's what it is. Two little satellites just hovering anywhere. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, bro, like, maybe you want to bring those up and put them closer to your chin where you're going to get punched because that's exactly what Yija did. He just lands too clean. Weston Wilson drops. He gets up, drops him again. The walkouts were longer than this fight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely spent a lot of time flying over to China just to spend not a lot of time in the cage. And it genuinely doesn't make any sense because you could have just taken a fight in the Apex. Like, you're on a contract, dude. You're going to get the same fucking result probably. But like you could have just not wasted your time. Did you just want to go see the city? Like genuinely think about that. You know how some people join the military because they're like, oh, I get, you get to travel and you get to see the sights. That might be part of what Weston Wilson's game is. He was like, oh, China, Shanghai sounds really nice. I might be able to go see, some of the nice things. Something wonder of the world might be out there or something.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it is a nice way to get some free travel out of it. Hopefully, he enjoyed the country after he woke up. But I mean, this
get to
was
spend
definitely.
extra time on the ventilator.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, so yeah, I mean, like I try to be as respectful as possible to these fighters, but this was one that I did kind of have to chuckle at a little bit. Like on the watch along, it really was just like, oh my god, dude, we're sitting here talking about how Wilson is just a charisma or a vacuum, and then this happens. It's just like, oh, good lord, what like you hate to be right sometimes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but
You know what
yeah,
I want to make a point about, which is just crazy, and I think the chat might really like this, is you watch this fight and you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely over after the second one. The second time he gets his knockdown. It took Mohamed Yahya 5 more times, by the way, for them to be like, no, it's over. But like Weston Wilson, rightfully so, after two, call it. Call it. If he gets dropped 2 times, he is not a warrior.
well, but
Do
see,
not.
but the difference is that he actually was done though. That's the dude who Yaya was fighting was popping back up seconds
No,
later.
Yahya was the one getting fucked up.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right. But so there you go. I mean, like he was popping back up left and right. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like yeah. So anyway, uh, Wilson out, done, whatever. Shout out to Yija for being not only a Chad in getting the knockout, but also, as I had mentioned, having his own personal translator. Nowhere near as cute as little translator girl, but still, Chad moved to have his own.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean that is actually Chad stuff. I mean, he probably wears a really nice suit after his fights, like Yi Jing Liang as well. So, boss shit.
Indeed, indeed, and that's really end of the story on this fight. I mean, Yisha's hopefully going to get some more suitable competition, and then we're going to see if like how he looks against somebody who actually gives him a fight. But for now,
We can actually bring it up now. It's unfortunate that a lot of these people aren't going to get the better matchups that they should probably be getting. That's going to put their name into contention somewhere. Is because a lot of people just downplay the ability when it comes to the regional guys. It's like, oh well, they had to handpick these opponents. They had to give a plus 650 for him to go out here and win on home turf. Like, how good actually is he? We're going to give him more cans, more cans. We're going to wait for the other China card. They said they're going back to China at the end of the year. Yiza, go for it.
yeah. Well, I mean, easy dub then, right? I mean, just slam dunk on that. Take the short money because I mean, minus 1100. Obviously, you're not making anything off of that, but sweeten up your parlay with an easy dub, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, another unexpected easy dub. This was one that really. I did pretty good picking. I think both of us did pretty good as far as our predictions went on this card, but this was one that certainly went tits up. This is Michelle Pajeda versus Kyle Dawkins. Now, of course, Dawkins is coming back into the organization after already being here, but apparently he's back and decently improved. I had zero faith in him coming back into this one, but I mean, he proved the haters wrong, and I was certainly one of them.
For the entirety of the week, I had to sit and argue that a guy named Kyle Dawkins was not going to come into the UFC, back into the UFC after finishing 4 straight knockouts or whatever. I had to do that for a whole week, and then I had to come on the podcast also and say that Michelle Pereira is going to fucking fuck him up. Didn't happen. This fight was it was really hard. Like, I'm actually like having a hard time explaining just how crazy of a time this was because Michelle came in here fucking around, and it's not like he was doing the fucking around thing that he normally does where he goes balls to the wall and does backflips and shit and tries to jump off the cage and punch you. No, he literally was just passive and just trying to just hang around, and then just got dropped. Like, literally, there's like in an instance, he's just literally just going through the movements. He's like trying to be cute and then just gets fucking dropped with a check left. And then Dawkins fucking finishes him. And you're watching that sequence and you're like, no way he's actually going to no way he's going to finish him on the ground. No way. And then he gets his head rattled off the fucking canvas 3 or 4 times. And then he goes out and you're like, fuck, end it. Jesus Christ. It was just so unfortunate. Yeah. Shout out to Saul. Sorry. He was such a bum. Such a bum. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean the man
Saul? Did I fucking say? I don't know. Saul? I think that's
Saul.
better.
Yeah, Saul. But yeah, Michelle was so confident going into this fight too. He's all smiles. He's teasing the dance. That's why I kept saying, we were talking about it last week, saying like, do not dance, motherfucker. Please do not start with the dance moves because that's, you zap your gas tank, and that's his worst enemy is his own gas tank. But he didn't dance, so I was like, okay with that. But he's smiling, he's giving little finger guns out to the crowd, and then right as Bisping is saying how Dawkins lacks power, he catches Pereira in mid strafe. That was, I think, the bigger story as far as like if you want to give some props, because Dawkins does deserve his props for this one. I mean, Michel Pereira, it's not like he's getting knocked out like all the time. He even said that in the post fight. He's like, it's been a while since this guy's got knocked out, and he's not wrong there. So, but shout out to Dawkins he timed that shot really well, because like I said, he was mid strafe. He was doing his little capoeira style like movements there or whatever, and like he caught him. And that hook just dropped Michelle. Dawkins lands a couple of solid elbows on the ground thereafter. I did think that the stop was a little quick, but I honestly understood it because that one elbow did bounce his head off the mat pretty well. So it did, it's like you can't let that happen and expect that the ref is not going to step in off of that. So shout out to him, though. Kyle Dock is coming back. I think they were saying that he was a CFFC guy, I think.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So if not that, then a promotion like that was where he went back and earned a couple of wins to get himself back into the promotion, and came back, got himself a knockout. Now you're back in the UFC proper, brother.
I genuinely don't know if Michelle could have taken a worse loss in any point of his career. I mean, it's not like Kyle Dawkins is bad. Obviously, he knocked him out, but like it's name value, Michelle should only be losing to good people. Kyle is good enough, but Michelle is done. So
Then that's really what I was going to end with, is that Michel Pereira is now he's got Angela Hill syndrome as far as I'm concerned. He's one of those dudes that's losing when he should win, winning when he should lose, and I would just class him as betting poison. Just 2-3 years in Dagestan and forget as far as whether or not I would put money on anything he's doing. So that's the end of the story there for me.
100%. No, I agree.
All right, moving on to the next one here. Rong Zhu versus Austin Hubbard. This went a little bit closer to how you were saying that you thought it might go, but still in the end went Rong Zhu's way. I would say that I was maybe slightly underwhelmed with Rong Zhu's performance and a little bit more impressed with Hubbard, but I do think that this was still the right decision, the right outcome.
This is genuinely one of those performances that you just know the refs or the judges didn't fucking watch. Like they were just doing anything and everything.
What?
And the fact that it wasn't a split decision is pretty criminal. I thought this was such a close fight. And the reason I think it's criminal too is because after the first round, you end with Austin Hubbard, first round close, okay? First round is close. Austin Hubbard ends it with a takedown on top. Okay. How would you score that? Okay, if it's close and then he gets the takedown, okay, Austin Hubbard wins round one, and then round two, Austin Hubbard gets a takedown, ends on top. Okay, after the striking was close and nobody really took away, so in the first round he outstruck him and took him down. Okay, then in the second round he got outstruck and still took him down, but there was no evident damage that Rong Zhu was doing. There was no taking charge in the round. They were still just standing at range, striking with each other. So the takedown sealed the deal again for me. And then the third round, Rong Zhu takes it away. Sure. But this is one of those instances where a third round overthrows the other two rounds. We've seen it plenty of times again. And a 30-27, when clearly one, if not two of the rounds were close before the third round, is just clearly them not fucking caring. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I think that my assessment was that the first round was not as close as you're making it. And that takedown at the very end that got immediately stood up from doesn't hold as much water as what Rong Zhu was doing, because I thought he was doing some pretty solid work in that first round. It was not necessarily overwhelming work, but he was fast as expected, and he had some good solid low kicks. I thought that was his biggest strength in that round. And I thought it was good too, because Hubbard, towards the end, he did start to fade a little bit. Rong Zhu's cardio is really good. He kept his speed up through all three rounds. So the leg kicks were a good setup for later on. I do agree that the third round did overshadow those other two rounds, but I thought that the first round was definitive enough for Rong Zhu to make it his. And that's what I also had that as a note. Like, I got to praise Rongju's urgency in getting back to his feet when he got taken down, because he was boot scooting to the cage immediately and ended up back on his feet for his efforts. So I was like, more fighters need to take a page out of his book when it comes to that, because you get taken down. He was like rowboating over there, like getting himself back to the cage. And I was impressed with that. The issue with Hubbard in this fight was that he had moments, but he didn't have consistent dominant sequences, I thought. And so if you add up over time, over the course of the fight, there was enough that Rongju did, in my opinion, to spray. I do agree with you completely that 30-27 is a little nuts. Like, there really was no world that made sense to me. But 29-28, I thought was correct.
I just think that we are in mixed martial arts. If the striking is close for we're talking about the 2 round specifically. Third round, give it to Rongju, sure. First 2 rounds, if the striking is close, how are you going to say the guy that has a minute of control time versus 0, and also has 2 takedowns and is attempting 10 more of them on top of that? I just, how can you say that that guy won the mixed martial arts bout when he didn't do the mixed martial arts better? Like, I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, see, but then that would be this, because it's a two-sided argument with that, because then you could also say, oh, well, damage trumps everything. And then if it was a different fight, I could also hear you saying that, like, oh, well, he took him down but didn't do anything with it.
Well, but this is the same. Listen, these are the same people that tell me Torres Finney wins fights. Like, so why is Austin Hubbard not winning when he gets the takedowns? It seemingly doesn't matter if you get takedowns when they don't want you to win. Like, it's actually crazy. And this is the thing that makes me mad. It's the same thing with Miles Johns. Is they just stop caring that things matter on the score. Like, if things are close, you have to rely on the other factors in the fight. And I just genuinely don't see how we're not getting to the correct decisions when it's close. And then the next, like, it's like okay, neck and neck, and then the next ones are like clear as day. So where is the correlation coming that this person's not taking away?
Well, see, but I think that's where we're differing, though, is that I don't think that the striking was that close. I mean, it was definitely close at times in those first 2 rounds, yeah. But, like, I do think that Ranju was doing the better work out of it, and the takedowns didn't affect him in any significant way, and he got back up so quickly that it was like kind of a moot point. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's going to be. It certainly was close-ish, but it was not so close that it was dead even to the point where you couldn't swing around.
I just these are the type of matchups and the type of fights and the outcomes that make you not want to watch the sport, and specifically because they just don't care. Like, you will watch the fight and you will convincingly say, yes, he won that round. You will have somebody in your ear that is rooting for Rangsu say, all right, he potentially won that round. He potentially won that round. That's 2 rounds out. It's like, how can you sit there and say, and then all 3 judges just get it wrong? Like, what are we watching that's different? We all listen. We can all admit Austin Hubbard won one single round. How did
Oh
the
yeah,
judge
no,
not give it to him? I mean,
yeah.
that's what I just don't understand, and that's what makes it not fun to participate. It's like, if I am betting for something to go to decision because I'm in the know it all. I know how the scoring's gonna go. How am I wrong at what I'm classifying to the scoring criteria compared to what they are? I don't know. You can't say it's a language barrier. Are we seeing in subtitles? I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. So
Yeah, I mean, getting hung up on the one judge who 30-27 did, I do understand that aspect
not
of
one,
it.
I'm just saying, not one 29-28 the other way. At least make it believable that you were trying. That's all I'm saying.
Well, either way, I do think that the 29-28 wrongs you was the correct call personally. So, you can kind of feel a little bit differently about it, but at the end of the day, I thought Rongju did do the better striking. I thought that he was more consistent with it, and the speed. I mean, again, optics. Like we were just saying, the sport is optics, and obviously, the judges saw it how they saw it. So, I mean, and I'm kind of agreeing with at least 2 of those judges. So, I wouldn't have been mad if Hubbard had gotten the nod from one of them, but I didn't see it being correct that way. So.
Yeah, it's pretty bogus, but either way, I mean, it's the same reasons that Rangzu won are the same reasons that, Xiao Long lost. Like, that's the problem with the fucking scoring criteria, is like, they don't know what's going on. They literally just don't even know. And that's why they don't care. This is the time for you to go get your fucking nachos and give it a 30-27, because woo fucking knows. Like,
I think you're being a little bit. I think there's some sour grapes going on with how it turned out for your parlay there.
I
But
mean, but no, but like, listen, If it was, this is no, and this is, listen, back to why it makes you not want to watch this is because imagine if this was somebody that I really cared about. Imagine if this was Josh Van. I would genuinely not fucking give a shit. Like if I convincingly watched Josh Van win 4 rounds and you told me it was 3-2 Pantoja, I would throw shit. I would.
But he did. But Rongju won 2 of those rounds, though. Is
It's
the
not.
issue
No,
here?
it's not true. No.
So, okay, all right. Well, see there. I guess we're gonna have to agree to disagree then, if that's the case. But I feel you on being upset about it, and I get your frustration. But at the end of the day, Rongju gets the nod. So I guess we're just gonna have to be okay with it.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, all right. Obviously, some deeper seated emotions there. Let's move on to the next one. All right.
Now this one has some deep seated emotions.
Yeah, I would suspect so. This one was one that I was correct about, but not for a while in this fight. This is Charles Johnson versus Lanier Kavanaugh. I said going into this one that this might be biting off a little more than Lonnie could chew at this stage of his career, and sadly correct. Even though he was having some great success early, that first round was really solid for Lanier Kavanaugh.
Lonnie was Lonnie was doing Lonnie. I mean, we had everybody in the Discord, loving the shit. No, this is the best flyweight prospect that we got right now. I mean, he's the most well-rounded one that we got. I mean, these still things are true, and he did have a great performance showcasing why he is one of the best, flyweight performers. And it's just unfortunate that he got a little tired, got a little ahead of himself, and decided to just not use his hands anymore. I genuinely don't know why his hands weren't anywhere near his face when he was evading. And I get it. He was trying to, he was tired. He was trying to look cool. Just hit him with the no look, but literally got fucking bopped and thrown on the fucking mat hard as shit with a punch, and then got his face pounded a couple extra times. And hurtful to my soul because this was supposed to be the guy. And the fact that it's Charles Johnson once again, I mean, could he have done it any better? No. Like, I mean, he has just cemented himself as the flyweight fucking headhunter, Like this is
He's
just ridiculous.
the prospect killer strikes again, indeed. Yeah, no. So, I mean, this narrative surrounding Kavanaugh getting knocked out, as far as his lack of defense or lack of awareness in that moment, I do understand it. Like watching back the replay and then rewatching the fight, of course, I see what everybody's seeing in that, but I really feel like Johnson finding the shot was more of the story here, because you got to remember Johnson has such reach for flyweight. He's one of those tall, lanky, long fighters. And he used that reach very perfectly in this moment, because if you watch the replay, he was mid-air when he landed that shot. Like he had to, it was like it wasn't a true Superman punch, but he had to go farther than planting his feet to get it. And so, like, I do understand what people are saying. Oh, yeah, like Kavanaugh got caught slipping and all that. But like, it wasn't like I almost understand it from his perspective, because he like in the moment, in motion, like he was, just didn't expect Johnson to go out there and reach for the shot and get as much distance as he got. Like he covered a lot of ground to make that shot happen, and then landing it with power, I thought was very impressive.
That right there is what they call letting your guard down. So
Yeah, sure, and that's what I'm saying. I get that perspective of all of it, but like I think that it's Johnson going out and finding it that was more impressive to me, and that I think like that's why I'm just like talking about the narrative of like all of it in context, because like yeah, in different circumstances and also against different flyweights. I mean, a smaller flyweight is not going to be able to find that same shot. Johnson is a different animal and a different set of criteria, a different set of characteristics that was allowed him to get that. So yeah, you should have been more aware in that moment, but like Johnson made it happen is what I'm trying to say. So I
yeah.
want to give him his props for this one, because you taking out a hot prospect in Kavanaugh, he had to make that happen after a round that he was getting dominated in.
Yeah, it was not looking too good for Charles Johnson, but goddamn, if he is one to be able to knock out your favorite prospect, I mean that is something that he is doing. And it sucks because Charles Johnson, and I'm not trying to be a hater, but like he's not the type of guy that is ever going to be the greatest in the division. So the fact that he's beating the guys that are probably going to be the greatest in the division, it speaks to how good he actually is compared to what it's going to look like on the record books.
This is going to be another old man working his way up the ladder, clawing it tooth and nail. And then when
Mhm.
he gets his title shot, I'm See Charles Johnson with that belt's going to be the sweetest thing ever to happen. But
Vince is going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, yes, he absolutely is going to be happy, and I can certainly dream. But either way, I mean, this I thought was actually I wanted to bring this up too. Like, aside from being a great comeback performance, I want to give a specific shout out to the great corner advice that Charles Johnson got going into the second round. His corner, they said on the commentary that his corner said, "Don't plant your feet and up the volume." And I thought that, coming off of how he looked in the first round going into the second, that was really helpful advice, because it made him more competitive. Like, it evened out the metrics, so to speak. Like, it like got him into the fight more than he was in that first round. It felt like he was playing catch up a lot of that first round. Now, granted, the shot that one shot to the eye that kind of gave him a lot of like agitation or whatever, that might have played a factor, because it was bothering him for a good amount of that round. But Lonnie Kavanaugh's boxing was really sharp. His movement was really good. So, like, Johnson was just a step behind, and I thought that the advice really got him, like, it got him situated to the point where he was able to find a knockout like that. Granted, Kavanaugh did try to go for the Gilly twice, which was probably not going to be a move that was going to work out. So that also maybe gave Johnson a little bit of a time to recalibrate as well. Ended up going for that pickup slam at that point, which worked out good for him too. I thought that that this was an instance where readjusting, and this is just where the veteran status of someone like Charles Johnson comes into play too. You get good cornering advice, you take the cornering advice, you get yourself situated and like understanding of what your opponent is throwing at you, you readjust, and then you find the shot. So I was really satisfied with how all of that turned out. And maybe it's just one of those deals where only a guy like Charles Johnson can do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it is definitely a great performance. Lonnie, I'm fucking heartbroken. I mean, this was just not what I wanted to see happen to you. Watching your hair go flying as long, with you down to the mat. I mean, it just sucked. But either way,
And he
good
was
performance.
out. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was out though. I mean, like, that was definitely, like, the shot really did put him down. I did feel kind of bad for him in that one, because usually he's the one putting people out. Like, I will never forget his Contender Series knockout. That was one of the scarier knockouts that I have seen, just in recent memory. Like, his opponent was out for quite some time. Like, that was one that, like, they had to, like, get the medics in there, kind of thing. So, like, Kavanaugh was on the right side of it that time. This time on the wrong side of it. I felt for him. Also, shout out to Am, who was in the chat, who's a student of Kavanaugh's, training over there at the same gym. It was a little tough on that front of everything, but I don't know how I haven't retained that Charles Johnson is fighting out of Orlando, Florida. So a hometown hero on that side of the coin, and happy about that. As you mentioned, my watch along co-host Vitz King's favorite fighter, or one of them. I was happy with that side of the coin. So Lonnie will come back; he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, keeping the train moving here. Mahashate versus Gage Young. This was another fight that felt very even to me. This was a very point fighty kind of fight on both sides. Yeah, I was not super impressed with this fight overall.
This fight, I remember that I was one of the few people that said Gage Young impressed me in Contender Series. I was one of the only people that was actually riding for him after the loss that he just had before this. A lot of people said that he looked awful. It was on short notice. What can you say? He went out there and got a paycheck, and may not have looked great, but he gave it his all. So, going into this fight, I figured he was going to be good because I saw something at one point. Like, there was a reason that I said that he was good. And so I'm glad. And well, actually, before I go into that, the reason I said that he was good is because he's very good at a lot of things. He's just very average across the board. Like, he does a lot of things good, nothing too particularly great, but nothing bad. And I think that showed in this. I mean, he actually was able to just, fill up the stat sheet, really do a lot of different things. Didn't knock him out, didn't throw up a good submission, but he didn't get into a point where he was compromised. He controlled the grappling. He got some takedowns. I thought this was a pretty solid performance, although it was not the funnest thing to watch, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, my big takeaway was that, like, I thought that, I mean, I kind of thought that Ma Shate might have taken this fight. Like again, this is one that was really really close. So like I was not mad that they gave it to Gage Young. I just was not overly impressed with either of these guys. So it was kind of a bit of a tough call. Like it was one of those ones where I'm like I'm going through round by round and I'm like, who is there anybody that's actually up in this fight? Because I was like, I have literally in the notes possibly 1-1 going into the third, and that's like, I mean, there should be more definitiveness in these rounds. I mean, like go out and get it. It was just, I thought that Gage Young had good volume and takedowns. Machate had the heavier power. So, Young does have a good chin. He was able to eat all of those shots. There was a powerful left hook in the second round that I thought like, oh, okay, Machate actually does have some power in his hands, but Young powered through all of that. It just, I came away from this one just not really feeling very confident in either of these guys going forward. And like, you hear it on commentary. I mean, Lorisenko is from St. Louis, and so is Gage Young. So it's like she's hyping him. Oh, I know how great this kid is. I've seen him be great, and like I'm sure that he's been great in the regionals, but just I don't know if I'm seeing it translate into the UFC, and it just gives me pause for like supporting going forward. And he seems like a fine guy. Again, this is not a personal statement. This is really just a fact, like what I'm seeing off of his fight style. I don't see any like one thing that I can latch onto from him and say that's the thing that's going to get him to the next level.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. I
Yeah.
think he's just all around good at things, not very particularly great at one thing.
Jack of all trades kind of deal, master of
Yeah.
none. That's really all that I had to say about this one. The only other note that I thought was kind of funny was that they both got warnings for leading with their fingers, and after the warning, both immediately went back to leading with their fingers. Thought that was
Yes, it was nice.
little lull moment. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this was an okay fight. As I said, I thought that Mahashate might have won it personally. I'm not mad about it. Young getting it, and that's really the end of what I got. So.
Yeah, sadly, this was the featured bout.
Yeah, featured prelim. Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, that was definitely not like the next fight probably should have been the featured prelim, but then this should not have been on the main card. This probably should have just been like, maybe it should have been the opener.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Gage Young and Mahashate is what it is. Moving on to main card here. There's a lot to talk about with this fight. This is Tyalok Naraji. Got it. Nailed it. Tyalok Naraji versus Kiefer Crosby. First of all, before we get into the fight itself, it was hilarious that during the promo package, Fitzgerald was doing the voiceover and did not know how to pronounce Saiyan. His Naraji's nickname is Super Saiyan. Obviously, Fitzgerald is not a Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm not a Dragon Ball Z fan personally, but I know what a Saiyan is and I know how to pronounce it. No one corrected him. This was a pre-recorded bit. Like this did not have to, somebody could have fixed this in post kind of thing. They just let it fly.
How did he say it?
I think he said cyan. I believe. I think that's how he did it. Super cyan. Either way, just a funny little note. But so that out of the way, what did you think, Chase? Because there's a lot to talk about here.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, so I want to just lead right into the narrative that I want to bring up. It's like we need to stop. We need to stop treating. Well, it's not like we have been doing this, but we're starting to create a pattern. In these last two instances that I'm going to bring up, we need to not let happen more. We had the headbutt and Contender series where the dude arguably won the fight, and then they gave 30-27 to the other guy, or not a draw, basically. And then we had this one where our boy Naraji knees the downed opponent, gets the points taken, finishes the fight, and then we act like he didn't knee the guy when he was down. Like, why are we not taking points away? Like, I get we're taking points away in the actual performance, but like in our minds, why is it not, hey, that dumbass threw a knee when the dude was down? Like, shouldn't we take note on that instead of being like, look at this fucking prospect, dude, minus 750, got the first round knockout? Like
No, I agree. I mean, they said it on commentary in a way that kind of illuminated something to an extent, because they were like, he gets the win, but there's an asterisk now. It's one of those things. But like, you're right, there is no actual asterisk when it comes to the scorebooks. So there should be some type of something that indicates this, because this was one of the most blatant fouls I have ever seen in my life. I mean, there is no two ways about it. Just talking it through real quick, we goes just to set this all up for anybody who didn't see this fight. These two go at it from the start. They went right at it immediately. So good fast start on both sides. But sidekick for Naraji, takedown attempt that goes sideways for Crosby, ends up on his back because of it. So that's the setup for everything, right? Crosby tries to throw up the triangle. Nice work on the top from Naraji to navigate all of that, because Crosby was trying to go for some submissions. He almost had the armbar for a second there, but nothing doing. Naraji good with all of that, right? He lands a couple of solid elbows, Naraji, from the top. Was doing fine work. He was winning the fight based on what he was doing up until this point. Then Kiefer Crosby tries to stand up, and just the most blatant knee to the face. It ends up cutting Crosby. His cheek ends up bleeding. He's looking real bad off of this. This would have been an instant disqualification had Crosby decided to go that route. It ends up being a 2-point deduction. Now, so that just should tell you right there. If you did not watch this fight, just off of how we're describing it, that should be the standout, is that this was such a blatant foul that it was a 2-point deduction. Very rare that you see them jump straight to the 2 points. But
they have in the last one that I just brought up as well with the headbutt.
Well, sure, yes. I mean, then they should. I mean, hopefully this is a trend of starting to go that route more. But this was just to emphasize how blatant it was.
No, they should not continue to do this. No, there needs to be another way. Taking 2 points means nothing because the dude gets finished in the first round no matter what, and whatever, and then he loses either way. So
right. I mean, that's the overarching point to all of this too. And I thought that you made a good point in the Discord actually about a way that things could be changed, but we'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, so just to finish up the recap here, Crosby raises his Warrior stock for staying in this fight because he easily could have taken home the DQ win. But then immediately after the fight starts up again, Naraji comes through, pummels him with elbows, and gets the TKO. Now, Crosby, after the fact, was on social media saying that he had some words for Mark Goddard, who was the referee, because there was only 1 minute and 4 seconds that elapsed during the stoppage for the point deduction. Mark just immediately starts the fight back up without giving him any time to recover. And I thought that Crosby makes a good point here. He was the fouled opponent, he was the fouled competitor. And why are you telling him that he immediately has to go right back into the fight? He should have had the full 5 minutes.
No, that's actually a point that I was going to bring up as well. Is it was the problem was the illegal strike. The problem was also the point deduction. The problem was also that they fucking we as the fans, even Saul here. Thank God Crosby continued, bro. Why are we encouraging this? He got kneed in the face, and because it's cool for him to not back out of the fight and get knocked out 3 seconds later, that's cool for you guys. You guys are okay with that. Man, he's such a fucking Chad for that. It's dude, he just got kneed in the face. Bro, why would you want to continue fighting the dude who's just going to foul you? He literally tried to murder you. But, when it comes to the point thing, I think another option to the point deduction system, to the foul regulation, if you get anything, it's like the NBA. If you get a flagrant 2, you're out immediately. If you get a point and then you get another point, then you're out. Or if you get two immediately, you're out. And they did pressure Crosby to get back in there. They're like, get the ref, check him. Is he good? He's good. All right, get out, ref. It was literally Goddard having a moment. It was kind of weird. And then, starts the fucking fight back up. The dude's bleeding still. Normally with these, they wipe him up and they're like, check the cut. No, he's still fucking bleeding profusely. He's got to get back into the fight. They fucked him over by making it seem like he's some fucking god for continuing the fight. It's yo, you literally just wanted him to get his ass whooped. It's not like it was an eye poke and get back in there, champ. You got this. No, he literally was getting up and got a knee. It was a knee so bad that people were thinking he just broke his fucking nose with it. They were oh my God, he busted his nose. But it was a cheek. But I don't know. They kind of did him so dirty.
Well, I liked what your suggestion was in the Discord, where you had said that they should send the one of the possible changes. People talk about a million different changes to how these things can work better, and there does need to be some kind of adjustment to the way that these things are handled from the top down. There needs to be the ABC, who is the body that regulates the commissions, needs to go back to the drawing board on some of this. But I like the way that what you had suggested, where you're like, send the rule book out to the fighters ahead of the event in their native language. So wherever they're from, translate the rules and give it to them ahead of time. None of this referee backstage telling them the rules real quick, talking it over kind of thing through a translator. Give them the rules ahead of time and then be firm in your enforcement of it. If it's like what you said, if it's a two strikes you're out kind of thing, then perhaps maybe that works. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually get into it once you start breaking it down in cage and how it like plays out in the reality of it. But I do like the idea of them having the rules ahead of time in their native language so that they can go take their time, read it over, have a full understanding of what they can and cannot do, so that there is no question going forward. It's like one of those things where, he just doesn't speak English. Well, that does not play a factor anymore.
Yeah. Well, and you get into that, because I think if that's what you do, you send everybody the rule book. Okay, not everybody's going to read it, but then you're going to start seeing that people are going to get penalized and not getting paid, and then people are going to realize that, oh shit, I really actually should not fuck up. And you're actually going to start getting people that take the shit serious, whether it's them actually sitting down and reading it or they're getting somebody to help them understand what it fucking says. I mean, we're professional fighters here, we're not fucking English scholars. I get it, but like, I think I think it could just help a lot. It takes we already have so much copy paper in the world. Like, who gives it? Just use more of it. We're not going to run out. Just make more papers, packets, and mail them. Get everybody to update their address. Get a mailing address and send that shit to them.
Yeah, I mean, and really, like, to your point about like whether or not they're going to read it, that's on them at that point. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes away the ambiguity of saying, oh well, they're in China, it has to be translated. It's an English speaker going through a translator to it takes all of that shit out of the equation. So it's like, if you don't want to read the book, that's on you, buddy. Like, you can go ahead and not read it, and then something like this happens, you have no one to blame but yourself, and now you have to lose. Like, that's, I think, the bigger part of this, because it's like, yeah, Crosby even said in his Instagram post about this that I referenced, he was like, what did you expect me to do? Basically, he was like, yeah, are you good to fight? Are you going to go back into the fight? All of the fighters are going to do that. That is what a fighter does. If you are taking the easy way out, to me, you're not fit for this sport. So that the fighter is going to go back in there even after something like this. Yeah. So there has to be a better way to handle these kinds of situations. And I do think it is very unfortunate now, exactly what you said, where Naraji is now is heralded. They on commentary we're even glazing him. Expect to see a lot more of Naraji with these dominant performances. Blah blah blah. Yeah, after a shot like that, yeah, sure. I mean, anybody can go out there and 2-point foul their way to a victory. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you have a compromised opponent. Landing 1 or 2 elbows is all you need to do after that. So there does have to be something. Again, the notes just had this is another fight that makes you question the oversight of this sport.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I can't even say shout out to Naraji on this one, because usually I'll end, how we go to the next one. I'm like, yeah, shout out to Naraji for a great win. It's like, no, not this one. Shout out to Kiefer Crosby for being a warrior. Yeah. I mean, that's really how I got to end this one. And Naraji, I mean, keep in mind, anybody who's looking at these fights going forward, if you're betting and stuff, just know that there is potential for this guy to foul himself out.
Yeah, literally.
Because that's the other point. You brought up Saul saying that thank God that Crosby continued. His next point to that was Naraji was on so many people's parlays. Well, keep in mind for your next parlay that you might get him up against a guy who's not going to be such a warrior.
Yeah, that one was pretty stupid. But either way,
yeah, no, it really did bug me too. So oh well, I guess it is what, and that's the unfortunate part of the sport too, is that all we can say at the end of it is just, oh well, on to the next one, right? Anyway,
when they rob your favorite fighter, it's just, oh well, gotta wait for the next one.
Oh, right. Different perspective on that one. I think that's a little apples and oranges.
I mean, that's a robbery too, dude. You're robbing this dude out of an opportunity because his opponent just gets to knee him straight in the face and then fucking get open rain on him after that. Stand up, make sure the doc checked you out, that you can see properly. All right, now get over in your corner and we're gonna line him back up for you.
No, I certainly agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that Kiefer Crosby was certainly wronged, and this was one of the rare instances of seeing someone on social media complaining about a fight after the fact and me completely agreeing with them.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, on to the next fight of this card. Sumadarji versus Kevin Borjas. This was an ass fight.
Dude, this is the portion of the event where I didn't realize that I was I was living the moment. Like this was just hard. This fight right here was hard. We're gonna talk about the next one, and then Jesus Christ, we're gonna talk about the one after that.
Good
But
lord.
as of right now, this fight here, I mean, there's only one thing to note, and it was genuinely, it was funny, but it was also like concerning. Like, bro, Sumerdaji kept grabbing Kevin Borjas's cup in the clinch, and the ref kept having to slap his hand off of it, and it's like, yo, Kevin, like you got to say something at some point, like, yo, like the ref's got his hands on it, and then to break it up, and Sumerdaji hits him with the no, 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 I'm doing this, and then shows him that he's holding his dick. It was crazy. It was really funny, but uh, horrible performance from Kevin Borjas. There was a time where I said this dude got worked over by Josh Van, so he's obviously not good. But then I realized Josh Van is just that good. So I had a little hope that Kevin Borjas could have a potential comeback because this last fight was pretty good. This one, no fucking chance. So ass.
I genuinely don't know, like, if Borjas was just having a bad day or what the reason for his inactivity was, because he was exceedingly inactive in this fight. I have in the notes too that the one good shot and a defended takedown wins the first round for Sumidarji. Like
Yeah.
that's all that it took. So I mean, that really does signal just how inactive Borjas was. You never want to hear the corner literally saying, "Bro, you need to fight right now." Like, I mean, like, you're in a fight, dude. Like, you need to be in there. This should be something that goes without saying. But I mean, Sumidarji was just able to point from the outside, so why not take the layup? Is all I thought from his side of the equation. I mean, he's out there just landing a couple here and there, moving around pretty decently, and Borjas is kind of standing in front of him. He was moving okay, but not doing anything. So it was very odd. It was almost bizarre, like just seeing him just be that inactive. I don't know what it was. I genuinely am stumped for why he was fighting the way that he did. But he finally starts fighting a little bit in the third round. But Sumisdarji ended up staying the course through all of that, defended some takedowns. He just didn't give much room for traction for Kevin Borjas in that third round. And he was up so far in the first two that it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to win if Borjas didn't finish, and he didn't. So that's about it.
Dude, yeah, this one was super bad. It makes flyweights look terrible. Like these are the type of flyweights. Kevin Borjas on a good day is a good flyweight, but Sumerdaji is one of those flyweights that, I mean, I don't know, bro. This fight was just
Well,
not it.
that's not. I mean, this shows you. Like, I look at it from the other side. I think that this fight shows you just how good the good flyweights are, because these guys are. I mean, like, this is like kind of bottom of the barrel flyweights as far. And I even said that about Sumidarji. I was like, this guy is not a finisher. You know, we
Hmm.
on the last week's episode. You know, I was like, I think that he'll win this fight, but I don't think that it's going to be anything like over the top, because he's just not a great flyweight in the greatest division in the sport, in my opinion. I mean, like, you know, the flyweights are some of the most entertaining fights that you're going to see. This was not it. And I think that, like, you see that from both sides in this, that these are just like, you know, it pushes the differentiation between the good and the bad very far. It shows how deep that chasm goes. The only thing that I thought from Sumidarji that was anything of note as far as his performance was that he had some decent kicks.
Sure, good
Right,
for him.
exactly, and that's the appropriate response to it. So yeah, I mean, really, the takeaway here is that either of these guys against even a decent flyweight is going to be probably not a great matchup for them. Sumidarji, if you pressure him to make him work harder, he will rise to that pressure. So I do think that he will continue to have competitive fights, but he's not going to rise past that. His ceiling is pretty low, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. And with Kevin Borjas being just a straight up boxer, I mean, he tried for takedowns, but if you're not getting Sumerdaji down, then you're not a wrestler. So stick to the striking and just be more aggressive. But I'm definitely not betting on you to do anything important later.
Well, I don't even know if he really is the boxer, or if he just was so lackluster in his takedown attempts that he just wasn't able to get his wrestling off like he actually wanted to, and that was what was holding him up. There was something off. I mean, we'll talk about somebody else who had something way off too. So I might have just, maybe it was the trip to China. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of different things could have been it, but this fight was not it.
I agree.
All right. I mean, that's really all that you can say about that one. boring fight.
I mean, I
This
can tell you there's not much more to come for these next
Yeah,
ones.
it really all of the action was front loaded on this card. This next fight is another one. This is Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. This fight kind of sucked too.
This fight was horrible because when you go into this fight, you know, you have half of the people expecting Sergey Pavlovich to come out and be what he once was, which I was of the assumption he's never going to be that again. And I think I was very accurate in saying that. Now, when it comes to Waldo Cortez Acosta, I think he is a very generic, very average. He's good at a lot of things, not great at most. You know, whatever we want to say about Gage Young, I mean that's what Waldo is. You know, it, he gassed out, which we actually really haven't seen him do most in his fights. You know, he's actually had decent cardio for being one of the bigger bellied guys. You know, the Salsa Boy is normally dancing his way to the decision, but I think this one I think he started out very worried about Pavlovich's power, which he should have had me in his fucking corner. I would have told you that dude is not throwing nothing at you. You would, dude. The chin that you got is crazy, and he actually showed it in this fight. He ate a lot of clean shots from Sergey, but Sergey is just not what he is ever. You know, he's not going to amount to what we once thought he was going to be. And Waldo is still the stock didn't drop for him. I mean, he did exactly what Waldo was going to do. It was just a matter of if he was going to have just a little more output than Sergey, and he didn't. So he lost the fight, and it was boring. But he didn't get knocked out, and he gassed out for the first time. And I think he just wasn't locked in. I don't think.
I would say that his stock dropped a little with me because of the output specifically. Because I think that if he had better volume, that there was potential for him to take this fight with the way that Sergey kind of operates. But the bigger note, like what you're saying about the old Pavlovich being gone, that is true. But I think that the modification that I have come to is that I think it's time to acknowledge that even though the old Pavlovich is gone, the new Pavlovich can still win fights. And that to me is where it lands. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, yeah, we saw a Sergey Pavlovich that used to come into the cage, walk forward, throw windmill shots at people, and just clobber them to death. And that might not be the case anymore. But the new version of him is still a decently technical navigator of fights. And when you have a fighter like Waldo, who's say you because really the assessment was accurate. Waldo stayed on the outside. He tried to point his way, and it just wasn't adding up because the volume wasn't there. And Pavlovich still can command center. Like he still has the ability to dictate the pace of the fight. And I think that is what is going to continue to win him fights. He might not, be able to do it at the highest of the high levels. Guy's still ranked third somehow, which is, that's just, I think, a reflection on where heavyweight is. But either way, still able to win fights, but not as dominant as he once was. So it's like, I think that the thought process was correct, but it has to be modified to account for the fact that even if he's not the world ender clobber killer, he's still a potential winner.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So
that's the unfortunate part is because I will probably keep the narrative alive that Sergey is not what he once was. But you are completely right. He should be able to beat mid to top tier, heavyweights if there is a top tier below him kind of deal. But he's the baseline for the top tier, so he should be fine for now.
yeah, and I mean, when it comes to the whole deal with Waldo, as far as this fight went, like, I mean, I've never really liked him all that much, to be perfectly honest. I think that he's a little bit cocky without backing it up. And that showed in this, which was funny to me because as he's gassing out, he's still trying to taunt and sort of play the dancey shit. And I'm just like, bro, you're down 2 rounds solid right now, and this is how you're trying to do things. It just was a bad look in my opinion. He's a Dominican fighter. My buddy Vitz King is Dominican. I support him for those reasons. Obviously, representing Dominican Republic in a sport that has no representation from that nation is something that is noteworthy. But I think you were exactly correct when you said that he was respecting the power way too much. Like he was out there, like anytime that Sergey was putting the pressure on, he would immediately back up. Like it wasn't even like I'll take even like a pepper shot just to get in and get my own shot off. It was just like, get the hell out of here. And I think he might have just felt the power early, and that might have been informing his movements and stuff. But I do appreciate that Sergey went and hunted him down. We talk about how there are fighters who like to stay on the outside, and it's their job, the other competitor's job to go and find them and land those shots. Sergey did that. He also was kicking a good amount in this fight, which we don't see as much from him. So, if this modified version of Sergey Pavlovich if that has to be, if that's just what the reality is now that he's not going to be Mr. World Ender, I was okay with how he navigated this fight, and I thought he did a pretty decent job, all things considered.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that you think this fight was also ass, but you admire that he did it well.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's heavyweight, bro. That's
I
just
know.
you know what I'm saying. I mean, like you have such a small percentage of elite heavyweights, and this is a, a good version of Pavlovich at like within this dynamic.
Yeah, they were so good they couldn't finish each other. I know.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, this definitely was not a great fight, but it was a passable performance to get the win for Pavlovich against a Waldo who was trying to play a game that we knew he would play, but didn't play it well enough.
100%.
Yeah. Also, just real quick before we move on, did I hear correctly that Waldo has 10 kids?
Yes, sounds about right. And they said if he wins, he'd get the 11th is how they set that joke up. So,
That is just wild, bro. Stop having babies, brother.
mhm.
10 children. That's insanity. And then the other
UFC
final
contract must pay good. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, really, 10 mouths to feed. Good Lord. I can barely survive on without kids. Yeah, and the other note that I thought was pretty funny was Pavlovich's boy during the post-fight interview reminding him to beg Dana to give him a shot at getting into the UFC. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, bro, the Contender Series exists for a reason. Just go on there and earn your way in. You shouldn't be tapping your boy on the shoulder saying, hey, Dana, please give this guy a shot.
right.
I think that trend needs to die down a little bit. We've seen that like several times recently of guys using their octagon interview to advocate for their teammates. I understand it, and I do think it's a nice thing to do, but like I think that maybe we need to curb that just a little bit, especially if it's getting to that point. Like, hey, brother, remember, tap on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
No,
little strange.
yeah, no, that definitely can get. I can see how that would be cringe and annoying, but we have seen that become a more modern trend, and it should be for the good people. Like if it's Ilya and he wants his brother to come in, like Dana, come on, let my brother have a shot. I don't care about that shit. But like if it's just some random guy in the gym, like yo, get your stripes like everybody else. Figure out how to get in contact.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. I mean, they're if you're training with someone who is out there already in the organization winning fights, they're not that hard to get a hold of, I'm sure.
Right.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's move on to the most bizarre fight of this evening. This was Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega. Just to set this up a little bit, setting the stage here, all kinds of problems for Ortega on the scales going into this fight. There were reports that he had been hospitalized briefly. He apparently tripped and fell at one point, cutting weight. The fight was moved to 153 pounds. That's a very specific number, but that's what was on the Chiron for both sides. So 153 pounds is what this was fought at. Why was this a 5-rounder? No one seems to know, including Aljamain Sterling. Aljo came out before this fight and said they weren't getting paid any differently for a 5-rounder. So very odd that they specifically made this one a 5-rounder. And then, of course, with those issues that Ortega had making weight or not making weight, the lack of making weight, this turned into one of the more bizarre 5-rounders that we've seen in recent memory, and this was just odd. Anyway, go that's your setup. Have at it, Chase.
Odd is not the word, dude. Horrible is the word. This was one of the worst. And listen, and I actually think I'm confident by saying this was the worst non-title 5-round fight that we've ever seen. Like this was that
Yeah,
genuinely, like no way did we expect it to be this bad. Like even after Brian was like with the stuff that was going on before the weight cutting and stuff, like I was confident, okay, now Aljo's gonna finish him. Now he's gonna fit, no playing around. This is the dude that'll take your back and choke you out, like this is the human backpack. And then I watched him strike with Brian Ortega, and I want to make this clear, I watched him do it for 3 rounds, because at the end of the third round, I decided it was not worth my time for this. And I hate to break it to everybody out there. This was after an entire day and night of watching fights. I was done. I was fed up at what I was seeing from Aljo. He literally, and dude, it's not even just Aljo. It's the goddamn commentators too. They're sitting there saying, people forget how good of a striker Brian Ortega is, man. His boxing is so slick as he gets his ass whooped by Aljamain Sterling on the feet, the dude who can't throw a jab properly. I just genuinely nuts. I mean, I woke up and I saw the clips of the elbow that Aljo landed that he broke his own arm on. By the way, he's literally chipped a bone in his fucking elbow,
Did not know
which
that. Oh, Jesus.
yeah, so his arm's like all fucked up right now. But I think it's just absolutely hilarious. It's like, dude, how harmless can you be? You get injured after hitting Brian Ortega in the face. Like, I don't. It
Yeah.
hurts, bro. This fight was bad.
So
Bad.
yeah, Chase tapped out 3 rounds in. I guess slightly understandable, but then you did miss the little resurgence that Brian did have in the 5th round, which was again another part of why I say this was a bizarre fight. I would lead into this fight by saying that this is not just the fight itself, but all of the circumstances that I laid out with how this came to be at 153 and Brian with the hospitalizations, all the things that I said. This is a fight that Brian Ortega needs to have a long, hard look in the mirror after a fight like this and kind of self-assess where he's at. I brought it up on commentary or on the watch along, and I don't want to dwell on it because I don't know if this was what it was or if it was just the weight cut. But Brian Ortega is a person who has been pretty vocal about having he can go into some dark mental places, and I don't know if that's what played a factor in this or not. But one way or another, there needs to be some kind of self-assessment, because to have the issues that he had coming into this fight and then to fight the way that he did for as long as he did in this fight, something is wrong and something needs an immediate addressing if he's going to continue on in this sport. That all being said, Aljo, I thought, for his part, did pretty decent with his striking as far as being a non-striker goes. Aljo is not a great striker, we know this, but I thought that he actually held the center pretty well. He picked some decent shots. He's not super powerful, we know that too, but I thought he was accurate, and it was more than enough against nothing, which is what Brian Ortega was doing for 2 rounds. The striking numbers were abysmal for Brian Ortega in this fight, at least going into the 5th. 3 strikes total landed in the 1st round for Ortega. All of his stats were awful, really. No takedowns fully attempted. He was like a mannequin for a lot of this fight, at least for those first 4 rounds. And then in the 5th, somehow ends up landing some significant strikes that actually sent Aljo off to the races. He ended up having to run away for a little while. So you missed a decent little portion there where Aljamain Sterling was kind of on the back foot. It almost could have looked like Brian Ortega might have had like the comeback of the century there for a minute, but that did not happen. Aljo, talk about running in this sport. Aljo was legitimately running. There's no two ways about that. I would certainly, if you ever want an example of someone legitimately running. I mean, Aljo, I think it was Herb Dean who was reffing this one, and he had even said, he was like, Aljo was going to get dinged for timidity at one point, like because of how much he was legitimately running. But so Brian Ortega had a little bit of a resurgence at the very end, but 4 rounds down, I mean, there was nothing on Brian's side. And it was so bad, and this is the most bizarre out of anything in this fight to me, that in round 2, Brian gets clipped.
Yep.
He thought it was an eye poke. It was not an eye poke. It was a legitimate punch. Herb Dean acknowledged that it was a legitimate.
It was a glove. It was a glove.
Exactly. It was a glove. It was, and it was. There was no two ways about it. Did not need a replay. Any of that kind of stuff. It was a glove to eye, and Aljamain Sterling and Herb essentially conspired together to help Brian Ortega. They stopped they stopped time and gave Brian some time just to kind of hang out.
I remember this in round 2. This is why after round 3 I was done, is because if I was going to see a finish, it was right then and there. Aljamain Sterling is just the most sportsman competitor that you've ever seen in your fucking life. He punches Brian Ortega in the face and then magically thinks that he pokes him in the eye. Like, how, like, did you lead with your fingers, buddy? I mean, where do you think that you poked him in the eye? I mean, if it was your knuckle, that's fair play. So, and then Herb is like the worst ever apparently at these points now, because he literally is like, "Go on, it's a punch, go on, go on." Okay, timeout. I'm like, you just do whatever you want now. Like he had no control of the fucking octagon.
And that's the bigger point to me, is that Aljo nice guy Aljo. Apparently, he does seem like a genuinely nice guy, and I mean like a nice guy, kind of like as like that archetype, as opposed to just being like a good dude. He seems like almost a little bit meager at times, and I don't want to harp on that too much, but he does, like, he gets kind of shit on by the fan base and shit on by the promotion, and it's just like, take it on the chin, Aljo, kind of deal. Might need to stand up for himself just a little bit more. But anyway, they were saying on commentary that him and Brian have the same management. There might be some friendliness there. I don't know what all of that, but it does not matter in this circumstance what Aljamain Sterling was doing. What matters is that Herb Dean is the ring ranger, as they call him, the Octagon Ranger. He's the person in charge here. If it was a punch, Herb Dean should not have stopped this action. No two ways about it. Like, he should have said, start fighting again. So I really do put the emphasis on Herb Dean on this one, because it was a bizarre moment, but you were the one that was in charge of whether the action stopped or kept going, and you should have said, fight on.
Yeah, but the problem is if Herb Dean would have done that, then he ends the 5-round co-main event in the second round for timidity or something, and then nobody wants to see that. So he's got to play the benefit of the doubt, and the fighters know that. Brian Ortega's been around long enough where he knows, I'll just stop the fucking fight whenever I want. I'm the main attraction here. You're not gonna stop the fight because I stopped fighting. It's like, dude, if I'm hurt or something or whatever, I'm gonna take my time. I don't know.
Well, again, none of that should matter. None of that should play a
I
factor in
agree.
here. Even assessment and even application of the rule set is what these referees are there for. And
Mhm.
Herb, of course, being one of the preeminent referees, I mean, he's like, that the head referee, if you want to call it that. I mean, he's like the dude who's that they're conferring with, the junior referees, like Vitor Ribeiro is going over to Herb Dean asking him for advice and stuff like that. He should know better. I mean, like, this is, he has to be the ambassador of keeping control in those types of situations. And I thought he did a very poor job in this instance. But so, Brian Ortega gets a little bit of time to recover, but then doesn't do anything with it until the 5th round. I mean, the rounds 1 through 4 were pretty much one long blur. It was,
You,
Aljamain pointing.
you keep talking about this 5th round like he didn't lose it on the judges' scorecard as well.
Well, it's kind of odd to me that he didn't win that round, because I thought that, I mean, Aljamain, like I said, he was running. So, I mean, like, I thought that was another one where the judges got it wrong. I mean, he should have at least taken that 5th round, in my opinion. But again, it's like, talk about optics. This is a great theme for this episode. This is just the optics discussion in long form. This is another one that optics plays a bigger part when it comes to that. Like, did he lose that round, Aljamain Sterling? I thought so. But when you have 4 rounds of Brian Ortega not doing anything, optically on that side looks terrible. Aljamain Sterling actually doing something looks better. So 4 rounds of that dynamic, and then Brian finally has a moment of success. Just, they don't consider it, and it's not right. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying that that's optically what happened.
There's 2 things that I want to touch on before we move on. Is you said Brian Ortega needs to, think about this performance and what this means in his career, and you also talk about the optics, bro. Brian Ortega, the entirety of his game is to get his ass whooped and then pull off the miraculous sub. Like, that's literally all that he's good for. So you telling me that he had a little slight comeback in the 5th round doesn't surprise me, because I watched him do what he normally does, and that's get his ass whooped for 3 rounds, what, 4
No,
rounds if you want to
yeah,
think about it.
you're making a good point there. He is like a comeback kid a lot of the times. But what I would say to that is, it's not just the performance that I'm talking about that with. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about
Mhm.
the weight cut and all of that too, because this is now time number 2, and the organization has given a lot of runway, a lot of leeway to Brian Ortega. If you recall, he was the reason that Dan Ige had to step up on 4 hours notice.
Yeah.
So, there's already issues with Brian Ortega when it comes to making the weight, period. But so you pair that with the performance. That's what I'm talking about. Why he needs to self-assess. And then also the another part of the assessment is just the fact that if he banks on being the comeback kid and then can't pull off the comeback, that's part of something that he needs to take a look at too. Because if you're resting on something like that, which is a very risky gamble to begin with, and it's no longer paying off, time to have a little think, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
So this was a weird one. Aljamain Sterling 30-20, or excuse me, 50-45s across the board. Like I said, would have given Brian that 5th round, but regardless, just a very strange fight, and one that it turned out to be a very long 5 rounds. And like you said, I struggle to think of another non-title 5-rounder that was quite at least as weird as this, if not as bad as this.
I can actually tell you what it was. It was, oh, actually, I don't even maybe it was a 5 round with Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. I think that was a weirder 5 round non-title fight.
Could have been, yeah, because I do remember Nate Diaz having like a non-title 5-rounder at some point back then. And that might have been the one that
If you don't remember the performance, then you need to go rewatch that. That was one of the special moments of this sport. That was when Hamzat pulled out.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely
Yeah.
remember the card. Yeah, that's when Nate guillotined him. Yeah, he pulled the ghillie off on Tony. Yeah, either way, regardless of that, this was just a bizarre fight, and certainly a strange co-main after 2 pretty bad fights. And then leading into this main event was just, it was an odd way for this whole thing to, we talk about the highs and lows of cards. This one started off pretty decent, had a couple of dips, and then sort of trailed off. And I guess you can say that this main event was a high point to an extent. We'll talk about it here, but just a strange trajectory of this entire card. So let's get into the main event. This is Johnny Walker versus Zhang Minyang. We both were very confident in Zhang Minyang coming into this fight, and I don't think that we were misplaced in that. I just think that the misplacement was in how freaking weird Johnny Walker can be in fights, and then to land a low kick that changed the entire course of everything was just something that no one could predict.
Yeah, this one was unfortunate. I did wake up the next day and have to watch this. I didn't have it spoiled for me. I mean, there was a couple comments, but like nobody outright said who won. I mean, I kind of figured it was Johnny somehow. But when the fight started, Johnny Walker fakes the glove touch and goes straight for a takedown. Hilarious because he gets the position reversed immediately,
Took
right into
himself
full
down.
mount. Yeah, it was actually hilarious. Which, if you want to talk about the good things, Chang Yang does have takedown defense. I mean, he did. I mean, that was damn near pretty good. I mean,
Looked good on top, like
yeah.
no real threats from Walker from below. So all of the top work for Minyang was actually pretty good in that first round.
And, so it was good. And then, they grind it out. And then, Zhang Minyang has all of his wins in the first round. So when it left the first round, it's already sketchy. Did we expect him to look as gassed as he did in the second round? No, I don't think so. But he was definitely gassed and he was done for. Did we expect him to act as if his head was hurting when his leg was kicked? I don't know. But it was very funny when you watch him do this while, like, I don't know. It was, when you pointed it out to me, I when I watched it, I'm like, holy shit, he actually did. He actually was confused on where the pain was coming. I don't know. He fell backward holding his head, but his leg was the one that was hurting, and then Johnny Walker swarms him. I don't know.
Yeah, it was that another bizarre moment. Yeah, Walker lands a leg kick, or he'd been landing some low kicks, some calf kicks throughout the fight, and they did say that the two of them had trained together at some point. I think that they had trained for Minyang's fight against Anthony Smith, I think is what they said. So maybe some frame of reference there. I don't know about that part of it. I don't know if it was just Johnny Walker's game plan to low kick a whole bunch. That could have been, and it was fine. I mean, yeah, you're landing some decent low kicks. Nothing that we don't see in this sport all the time. He lands one kick to the side of the knee, basically high on the calf. And I mean, it might have just hit the nerve. That's what Bisping was speculating. It hit the nerve, and that's all well and good too. But Zhang just full on crumbles at that point. I mean, like, he really did go down like as if his whole body shut down. And I do understand that, you hit the nerve, that does shut your leg down for sure. But to not have any instincts to maybe level change, not have any instincts to try to get yourself off to safety somehow to recover for a little bit, that this would have been an appropriate time for some evasive maneuvers. Get on if you're going to go down to the ground anyway, how about start rolling? I mean, I just do something. Anything is what I'm trying to say here, because he literally went down to the ground and did the don't hit me pose.
Yeah.
The same pose we were talking about earlier with the Contender series. So it was just a bizarre folding of a guy who was doing pretty good. He definitely took that first round.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely.
So it was just, even Johnny himself, Johnny Walker in the post fight said, he was like, he knew that the leg kick wasn't anything special. He was like, bro, it was just a kick. I have no idea what happened. So it was like, God, look, I understand that it's cope. We both were pretty confident. We both were very wrong. I get that aspect of it. it was something that I don't think that even the people who were going for Johnny Walker could have predicted. So don't try to tell me here that, oh, it's Cope, blah, 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 when you guys are the ones that end up getting lucky off of something freak happening. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, and I'm not taking it away. Good job. Good job predicting that Johnny Walker would take it. Once a goof, always a goof with him getting taken down by himself in the first round. But like, it was just an odd way for it to all go down, and it certainly does not inspire any confidence in Johnny Walker going forward. Like, that's what you were saying in the Discord after this is like, yeah, I mean, Johnny gets the win, but does this change anything about your perception of him? He took a year off, comes back, and this is the win. Like, are you saying Johnny Walker's back now, people? Is this what you're saying to me?
Right. No, I mean, it's just a crazy performance that, that ended up happening. In a perfect world, Zhang Mingyang flips the position and ground and pounds Johnny Walker in the first 20 seconds of the fight. But that's not what happened. Johnny Walker was able to weather the storm. He used his veteran experience and pulled off a W. I mean, shout out to Johnny Walker. I mean, he truly kept his name alive. Walter Walker is probably thinking he is the man because he made Johnny Walker win with his wrestling. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you were definitely right about Zhang's cardio because he was huffing and puffing halfway through the first round. I mean,
Like, Jesus
yeah,
fuck.
and he that's also again optics, just putting it out there. He telegraphs his gassing a lot with the way that he breathes. Like, he almost has that Nicholas Dalby thing going on where he breathes like really intentionally. And so you see him, like, his cheeks will puff out like a puffer fish when he's doing he curls his lips up and everything. It's
Right.
very. Now I do understand it though, because I mean, Walker was moving pretty well. I mean, Walker was making Zhang work for the early successes that he had,
Hmm.
because Walker kind of moves like a spider monkey. He's just a little bit all over the place, which I guess we've come to expect from him. But just none of that could have prepared me for how this all went down. I am certainly, kind of licking my wounds on this one as far as the prediction goes. And again, it does not inspire confidence in Johnny Walker that, like, oh man, the big bad wolf is back. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it makes me laugh even having to say that, it's like,
Yes.
it's just ridiculous, but it is what it is. And Johnny Walker gets the victory. Zhang Mingyang needs to work on his cardio and work on being able to handle adversity better, because I think that might also be something that was slightly deceptive about Zhang Mingyang, is that he had been finishing people in the first round so often that you got to consider what happens when he's not able to do that. And
Hmm.
maybe we were a little blinded by that. And also, I do want to mention, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but I wish that I had known this going into this fight, that Zhang Mingyang had gotten finished by that guy who essentially lied his way into the UFC. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but I'll have to link a couple of videos about this, but there was a guy who essentially like faked his record. He was beaten up on a couple of cans. He like legitimately fudged the numbers on some stuff. He like had put some fights in his record that were from promotions that did not exist. He really legitimately lied his way into the UFC, and Zhang Mingyang got beat by that guy. So
Nice.
yeah, I really do wish that I had been aware of that little factoid going into this fight, but it wouldn't have mattered, really. Honestly, I don't even know if I would have let that sway my judgment, because Zhang was so dominant. I think our thought process was correct, is all I'm trying to say. And again, yeah, it's cope after the fact. I get it. But you gotta look at it from like the perspective that of like the facts that as we had them. And I don't think that we were like completely off base, and no one could have predicted it going down the way that it did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's unfortunate that Johnny Walker has a way of fucking things up. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Johnny Walker is a human wrench in the cogs. You know what I'm saying? This dude,
mhm.
he just comes in there and like a bull in a china shop, just somehow figures it out, or he gets brutally finished. And
Yes.
that probably is what's going to happen again. So, I mean, just keep in mind that it's like, yeah, if you were riding with Johnny Walker on this one, I don't think that this is something that should inspire great confidence going forward. But in this moment, shout out to Johnny Walker.
Hell yeah.
And one other thing I did want to note here, I should have brought it up at the start, but I'll bring it up here now. If anybody who's out there watching knows what Johnny Walker's walkout music was, please either comment it now or throw it in the comments of the VOD, because Johnny Walker walked out to a legitimate bop that I was really, really feeling. And I went to Shazam it, and it brought me to some weird like playlist from I guess it's a Chinese tune, but like it brought me to a playlist that was like a DJ mix that had like a bunch of other songs, so I couldn't like figure out what the actual song was. If you are aware of what that song is, let me know, because that thing was absolute fire.
Hell yeah, no, absolutely. If you know that song, make sure to let Thinker know, because we're always looking for new songs around here.
That's the truth. I'm a big music fan. Yeah, Black Sabbath on the shirt.
There you go.
But yeah, so anyway, that is UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Zhang. Chase, after talking it through, what are your final thoughts on this one?
This one was really fun to get up at 3 in the morning and watch. I'm always excited for the China cards. I love the atmosphere. I love the audience, and I'm really excited for more to come. I don't think I'll ever miss waking up early to watch a China card.
Yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it. I really did like that it was front loaded with some entertainment, because I did think that main card trailed off pretty bad. I mean, this main event was certainly entertaining for what it was, a little bit odd and fluky, as we had said, but the main card sort of had some dips in there that obviously Chase tapped out. I mean,
Yeah.
if it hadn't have been a significant dip, he probably would not have done that. So
If it was a 3 round co-main event, I would have made it. Just so you know.
could have been. So yeah, I mean, either way, I thought that overall, if I had to give a point value to this, I thought maybe like a 6 was appropriate, 6.5 maybe. I love doing the early morning stuff, so that was fun. And like I said, it was front loaded with some good action, so it kept my interest early. Some odd things and some weirdness and some less than savory things, but anyway, that's how I got to my conclusion.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 on the boom meter.
All right, well, 3 booms it is. So that's pretty much it for this week, because we are off next week, ladies and gentlemen. We
Yes.
can at least take a quick look at the card that we do have coming up, which is UFC Fight Night, Imavov versus Bahayo. This is UFC Paris. So just we're not even going to go into it, because next week we'll give full predictions on everything. This will be a next week's fight coming up on next week for our next episode. But just to give a brief rundown of what we will be talking about next week. Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Bahayo in the main event. Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Hufi in the co-main. Love that fight. Balaji Oki versus Mason Jones. Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. It's a must-win for Paul Craig at this point. Perez Zayam versus Kue Fernandez. Patricio Pitbull versus Losine Kaita, coming in as a double champ in another organization. I believe he's from Octagon. So something to look out for in that fight starting off the main card. Your featured prelim is Umar C versus Brentson Ribeiro. C coming off of a pretty bad loss, not an unimpressive loss. Marcin Tybura versus Ante Dalia, who I don't know that dude off rip, but obviously a pretty seasoned veteran at 25-6. Interesting there. Our boy Andreas Gustafsson coming back versus Hinat Fakhretdinov. So that's a good one coming up. William Gomez versus Robert Ruchala. Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. Brad Tavares versus Robert Brezchek. And Shauna Bannon, my waifu, versus Sam Hughes, starting the card off.
That'll be a decent one. A lot of good ones that we'll definitely talk about next week. I'm excited.
Exactly. So, that's just a little teaser. As we said, we will be back next week on Monday for the full breakdown and our predictions. That's how we do it when we get a week off. So come back and hang out with us for that. If we did have fights, and we do have them tomorrow, of course, we've got the Contender series coming up. So if we did have fights on Saturday, and since we have fights tomorrow, you can catch both of us on our individual watch-alongs. I am at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They can always find me watching UFC streams on youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And I don't know if you guys knew, but I'm on Pinterest now. And I am out here killing the game on Pinterest.com/@CPSmalls. Actually, I think it's CP3Smalls, because they got to be a little fucking weird, but you should be able to find me. And if you didn't know, now you are going to know one more time that there is a special link down in the description. You could go ahead and get yourself a copy of Mixed Martial Arts for Dummy. The author is Frank Shamrock, and this is definitely a banger that you do not want to miss out on. That link is going to be awesome, because it's going to offer a percentage-based commission to me and at no extra price to you guys. So I just wanted to give another shout out to Amazon for this sponsorship.
Absolutely. You know, like I had said before, you click the link, you buy the item. It costs nothing extra, and we get a little bit of a kickback off of that. So you support the show, you get mixed martial arts for dummies. It's a win-win for everybody. Really good way to show your love for the stream without costing you anything extra. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yama Show, and we'll be doing that stream that I had talked about a little earlier, going over the Raja Jackson situation with a little bit more context than I went into on the video. The video is out on the channel now. If you have not watched it, please go and give that a watch, because we had a lot of good conversation going on in the comments of that. And obviously the situation is very serious, so a lot of interesting elements there. Give the video a watch, show your support with that. And I'll be back later in the week. I will let you know on Twitter and Instagram what day I'm going to be doing that watch along of the video with the context. So until then, everybody, we appreciate the support. Always have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.